Blow away the confusion about pickups with the new Chevy S10. Let's compare mileage. Ford's late entry small truck can't match S10 CPA gas mileage ratings. They don't offer an optional V6. S10 does. Ford can tow only 3,000 pounds. S10 can tow 4,000 pounds.
Now, Chevy offers a $500 cash bonus on S10 or $750 on new full-size light-duty trucks.
The new size Chevy S10. There's never been a truck like it before.
I take care to use real apples in my fruit pies.
So does Hostess.
Real apples.
Caring means my chocolate cake has a creamy surprise.
Like a Hostess cupcake.
Creamy.
Caring means fresh, wholesome Hostess snacks are baked with the goodness of enriched flour, skim milk, cocoa, sugar, and fruit.
My sponge cake is as fresh and light
as a Hostess Twinkies cake.
At Hostess, the care you take goes into all we bake.
Kodacolor 2 film for prints captures all the colors you can imagine. Brilliant yellows and greens, from luscious watermelon to radiant peacock. Spectacular blues, from indigo to blueberry you can taste. Vivid reds, from rose to flame. More colors than your eyes can see. The more you care about color, the more you need Kodacolor 2 film from Kodak, America's storyteller.
Something's different with this Aquafresh.
Oh, that's new Triple Protection Aquafresh. Fights cavities, freshens breath, and removes stained film as it cleans teeth.
All the cavity-fighting fluoride of the leading paste, all the breath freshener of the leading gel, and a formula clinically proven to clean teeth and remove stained film. Concentrated in one.
Clinical tests prove Aquafresh removes stained film as it cleans.
That's a complete toothpaste.
New Triple Protection Aquafresh.
For dinner at Denny's, we take boned, butterflied rainbow trout from Idaho, marinated in specially selected herbs and spices. Gently wrap it in seasoned flour. Grill it till it's flaky and tender, and serve it with a big baked potato topped with real sour cream, all for the special price this month of only $3.49. The grilled rainbow trout dinner, only at Denny's, where you'll like our prices and you'll love our food.
Nothing's gonna clear this clog.
Oh, yeah? Try heavy-duty liquid plumber with heavy-duty power.
Heavy-duty power?
Power to clear tough hair clogs. No leading drain opener can beat it.
Not this liquid?
Nope.
Not even Crystal?
Oh, works better than Crystal. Use Crystal and liquid plumber on hair clogged sinks. 30 minutes later, Crystal sink's still backed up.
Liquid plumber's clearing that tough hair clog.
That's heavy-duty power.
No leading drain opener can beat it.
Heavy-duty liquid plumber.
No little cinnamon gum freshens breath longer than Big Red.
Kiss a little longer, dance a little longer, romance a little longer with Big Red. Let Big Red freshness lasts right through it. Your first breath goes on and on, while you chew it, say goodbye a little longer, make it last a little longer. Give your breath long-lasting freshness with Big Red.
Come on, Molly. The fishing's better at sunrise.
Don't any fish get up at noon?
Molly.
Okay, hand me my secret.
Here, just use my spray.
Secret's made just for women. It's really strong.
The fish won't care.
But I will, because Secret will help me stay fresh and dry all day long.
Then I'll use it.
It's for women. Smell.
It's pretty, but if it's strong...
This is the secret that got away.
Secret, strong enough for a man.
But made for a woman.
NBC Sunday Night at the Movies returns following these messages.
Wednesday, Real People looks at hypnotic bust expansion. Then the girls throw a spring fling.
I smell liquor.
Facts of life. And America's fallen in love with a unique new family.
Will I be famous?
Love Sydney. Then Quincy counsels a dying woman and learns a lesson in living. Right after Real People, Facts of Life, and Love Sydney, Wednesday.
Someday. Boy.
Be awesome. Datsun 280Z X.
Someday.
Maybe your someday is now.
That's all we are dreaming.
See The Great Escape starring Steve McQueen on Theater 3, Sunday night at 11:30 on Channel 3.
The End continues, starring Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, and Dom DeLuise.
Ragu home-style spaghetti sauce. Is this new?
Introducing Ragu Home-Style Spaghetti Sauce. It's made like homemade.
And it's 100% natural, which does impress me.
There's no sugar in this, which is also what I try to achieve when I make it.
Everything I use is in here. I see big pieces of onion, nice big chunks of tomato.
New Ragu Home-Style 100% natural spaghetti sauce. It tastes like homemade because it's made like homemade.
It's gorgeous.
Has this ever happened to you? Your car stalls out. The solution could be as simple as this. Carefully dry off the ignition wires from top to bottom and dry off the distributor cap, the inside too if possible. Learn more ways to get yourself out of trouble in the On-the-Spot Repair Book, free from participating Shell dealers. Come to Shell for answers.
You know, if you haven't tried Tostitos brand tortilla chips, you should. Tostitos have the natural taste of lightly toasted corn. You can even see they're toasted. And they're so thin and crispy. Tostitos are hard to resist. It's empty.
But we like them.
Who's we? Oh, that's we.
Try Tostitos. They're lightly toasted for a natural corn taste from Frito-Lay.
NBC Sunday Night at the Movies returns following these messages.
Thursday, Gwen Verdon guest stars on Fame. Then can Willis defend Arnold from schoolyard bullies? And Mel helps the girls get their act together on Gimme a Break.
This is NBC News Update. Here is Jane Pauley.
Good evening. Despite some violence, Guatemalans in a heavy turnout voted today for a new president. There were 4 candidates, all conservatives. Leftists boycotted the election, calling it a fraud. President Reagan meets Senate Republicans Tuesday to try to stem a budget revolt. The head of the Senate Budget Committee, Pete Domenici, says the deficit has created a frightening economic situation. The United Rubber Workers Union tomorrow begins contract talks with tire makers. Despite plant closings, layoffs, union officials oppose concessions. Work is on schedule for the 3rd launching of the Space Shuttle Columbia later this month. Today, fuel loading was finished. I'm Jane Pauley in New York. More news later on this NBC station.
I'm not ready to go yet, okay? I'm not ready. You gotta wait. I got shit to do. I'm in the middle of something, all right? Just hold on.
Watch your mouth or don't come in here.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah, people, come on, we're adults here. You know what?
adults.
What is the point?
Yeah, we're adults here. I got a fucking Burger King fucking thing on my head. We're all fucking adults here, guys. People in my chat, 2 words. What are they? 2 words. Let me see the chat flood. Let me see the chat flood. 2 words. Okay. Next caller. Please. Let's get into the meat and potatoes, which translate in American to dick and balls. I got flip-flops. These are my flip-flops. Yeah, I really like my flip-flops because I can put them on. Because look, watch me put them on. I can put them on all by myself. Watch me put them on. Look, are you watching? Look, these are my flip-flops. Thanksgiving Day. I remember it clearly. It was Thanksgiving Day. I was inserting myself in somebody else's fucking business as a cash grab, and you know.
This channel is harsh reality.
Karen Yak se jodió la sucia vida. Amen.
This is Jonathan Lee Riches. I have cheeseburgers. I'm gonna put cheese on them. I'm gonna make sure that I have my hamburgers because I'm a big boy now and I can make the hamburgers. My mom lets me use the stove now.
And I'm just like, wow, I like receipts, and they brought receipts. Like they had evidence to back up everything they said, and I'm like, okay, well, there's got to be another side to this, right? Like this can't. No, this is too fantastic.
Yeah, because you're not going to just jump to the conclusion that there's a conspiracy amongst cops to cover up a murder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean cops and just like soccer moms and shit. Like that's what made it even crazier. Like,
yeah, get it, Betty. Yeah,
did you have a close relationship with your mom?
Get it, Betty.
Oh, of course, I still do.
Yeah.
My older sister was kind of sad. She was more of the prissy girl that likes going.
That is the best shit fucking
shopping for dresses with mommy. I was the tomboy that liked playing with the people.
Shout out to Cherry for just being easily the most faithful and loyal supporter that I've ever had, man. That someone could have that tenacity with loyalty. And I'm really blessed to have someone like Cherry be part of this channel and in my life. So it means a lot. And yes, I named him after Mr. T and Rocky. Say, woman. Say, woman. Say, woman. Since your old man ain't got no heart, why don't you come down to my apartment tonight and I'll show you a real man. Oh my God, I'm so in love with this little dude. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I love you guys very, 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 very much. And we will do this again very soon, my friends. Oh, say bye. Say bye. Oh, I love you too. Give me a kiss. Oh, I love you. Bye, guys.
All I heard was I thought firecrackers, and then I heard screaming.
Flight reported shots fired in the area of 10 Alfred Rail. Possible active shooter.
Yeah, 10-4.
We got 2 male victims, gunshot wounds.
It was a brazen attack directly in front of the victim's Braintree home. You can see the gray sedan with its back window blown out. Neighbors say this all happened around 1:30 Sunday morning.
Still unclear what led up to the deadly shooting on Alfred Road here in Braintree, but police say they found several shell casings in the neighborhood.
Since Sunday's shooting, there has been a large police presence in and around this neighborhood.
On Sunday, Alfred Road was swarming with police detectives, some gripping evidence bags.
They're also asking neighbors for any surveillance video around the time of the shooting
to see if they caught the suspects coming or going.
And they're hoping the community can help crack this case.
If they could check their cameras, especially in the Common Street area, would be most helpful. We're looking for help and assistance.
Police say there is no threat to the public. They continue investigating the fatal shooting.
under 10 miles away from 34 Fairview Road. On July 23, 2023 at approximately 1:30 a.m., Braintree police responded to multiple 911 calls, reporting shots fired in the area of 10 Alfred Road. Upon arriving at the scene, officers discovered two males in a parked car who had sustained gunshot wounds just seconds earlier. Ambulance services arrived to render aid to the victims. Both were then transported to South Shore Hospital in Weymouth, where they would later be pronounced dead. After the victims were removed from the scene, the Braintree Police Department, recognized for its competence, strong reputation, and scandal-free record, promptly initiated their investigation. Step one was to create a physical perimeter to restrict access and preserve the integrity of the crime scene. The road was immediately closed to all traffic. Yellow tape was deployed to cordon off a significantly large area that stretched across the street and onto the neighboring properties. Limiting access helps prevent the contamination, loss, or alteration of evidence, ensuring that all collected items are properly documented and preserved in a manner that establishes and maintains the chain of custody. If the chain of custody is broken, it can have significant implications for the admissibility and credibility of the evidence in a legal proceeding. Regardless of how powerful any single piece of evidence may seem, if not collected, mapped, and imaged according to strict forensic protocol, it can easily be rendered worthless. The Braintree Police Department proceeded to initiate the investigation with great enthusiasm and determination. As the first officers to respond, they were responsible for marking the location of evidence and ensuring its preservation until the State Police Specialized Crime Scene investigators arrived. Braintree officers wasted no time in questioning the individuals present inside 10 Alfred Road. They know that when a murder occurs outside a home, the people inside very likely were involved or can provide valuable, timely information. Braintree police officers then began canvassing the area, knocking on neighbors' doors and taking witness statements. By 3 a.m., the Mass State Police Specialized Search Unit arrived to take over the investigation. They worked tirelessly throughout the night into morning, thoroughly processing the scene. As day was breaking, State Police detectives expanded the search area, more than doubling the total square meters to be searched by including 2 additional zones. The MSP then proceeded to methodically gather evidence in a manner that could be likened to hosting a masterclass in forensic collection for all to see. The team captured numerous photographs, meticulously documenting the precise position and physical state of each piece of evidence. State Police Detective Yuri Buchenik and his partner, Detective Michael Proctor, oversaw the operation with a high level of professionalism and competence. Mayor Charles Kokoros visited the scene, addressing the media. He called the shooting a very bad tragedy and said he is working with the Braintree High School superintendent to make grief counselors available to classmates of the victim. District Attorney Michael W. Morrissey came in support as well. Later appearing in front of the media, urging local residents to check their home security cameras to assist police in catching the killers. The Braintree Police, Mass State Police, and District Attorney's Office demonstrated their effectiveness to the public when resolute in their determination to investigate a crime. This is technically the ending, but we started late. Let's go back and start at the beginning. Except this time, there's no public plea for help from Michael Morris. No local officials offering support or instead of the exact locations of evidence, the defense received this.
She failed her proficiency exam. She's not even qualified.
Stay away from the house. The house is off limits.
Just strictly withheld from the defense for 21 months.
The search is delayed.
That is societal work.
Just a wee bit further.
So drop him off. He goes up the driveway.
Report of an unresponsive male found in the snow at 34 Fairview.
10-4.
This is the part where we should be showing you news footage of reporters broadcasting live on scene, standing in front of 34 Fairview Road, Canton. Exactly like we saw earlier from 10 Alfred Road.
The suspected getaway car connected to this crime. Live in Braintree, I'm Ted Wayne, WCTV.
However, that won't be possible, and the reason is, no such footage exists. There isn't one news outlet on location covering the suspicious death of a Boston police officer. If your initial instinct is to fault the storm, bear in mind that these two WCVB reporters have never been deterred by snow in the past. Here we have the singular clip to have aired on television, unveiling a crime scene reminiscent of the Arctic, bathed in the uneven glow of vehicle headlights, and noticeably lacking the usual yellow crime scene tape. A measure that should have been taken early that morning by Canton officers, but was not. And then, there's this.
At the family home of Karen Reed tonight, no comment. Anything you would like to say to the officer's family?
Remember, this is taking place just hours after Karen Reed suffered the tragic loss of her boyfriend. And as far as the state was concerned, under accidental circumstances. And why is it only illegal to knock on doors when this man does it? But let's get back to the Canton PD.
We're going to do everything we can with our detective division, along with the state police, to commit to doing everything we can to find a resolution to this and bring the people responsible to justice.
Now, this is the level of determination John O'Keefe deserved, and the public rightfully expected from the Canton police. Yet it's not a Canton officer delivering this message. These words are from Timothy Cahoon, Deputy Chief of Braintree Police, addressing the media regarding the investigation at 10 Alfred Road. Cahoon stands as a prime exemplar of an excellent police officer, deserving the trust and support of the public. It's no wonder he was appointed chief 2 days after making this statement. In contrast, the Canton police have maintained a conspicuous silence when it comes to the investigation into John O'Keefe's murder. There is, however, one exception. David Yannetti provides further details.
Canton Police Chief Rafferty was allowed to publicly state that the facts revealed by the defense were just, quote, sensational accounts.
See the word sensational there?
I use the word sensational.
Sensational. This police chief decides that she is going to put out a statement. One of the Alberts is her boss. She is the boss of another Albert.
And they really should just trust the prosecution.
Just trust the prosecution. In order to trust the prosecution,
you have to trust Michael Proctor. And I question, how on earth can anyone trust Michael Proctor? I've previously referred to him as being conflicted, which is certainly true, but it actually does not go far enough to describe what he has done in this case just by taking the case. The more appropriate word to describe him is corrupt. Only a corrupt state trooper would agree to investigate a murder case in which a body was found in the yard of a family friend. Only a corrupt state trooper would keep his ties to that family friend hidden. Only a corrupt state trooper would refuse to go inside the home, which featured the body of a dead police officer on its lawn. Only a corrupt state trooper would write in his report that a street had not been plowed when it had. It was the corrupt Michael Proctor who took custody of John O'Keefe's clothing, and that clothing was not submitted to the lab until several weeks after Michael Proctor seized it. Michael Proctor's mother has described the Albert family as the Proctor's second family. Michael Proctor told witnesses who showed up to testify before the grand jury that Brian Albert is the salt of the earth. Michael Proctor's wife has posted about how much they love Colin Albert. The Proctors have constantly been photographed with the Alberts going back over a decade. We've shown that Michael Proctor's in a wedding party with Colin Albert. Colin Albert was the ring bearer at Michael Proctor's sister's wedding. It's so clear that Michael Proctor was both conflicted and corrupt.
Attorney Elizabeth Little.
If you were to review all of the police reports in this case, as we've done, then you might mistakenly believe that there were only 2 searches of the lawn of 34 Fairview Road that resulted in the recovery of taillight pieces. Those searches were on January 29th at 5:45 p.m. by the CERT team, and there was a second search on February 3rd, 2022. But those reports are not complete because according to photographs of the evidence bags in this case, which we just received on July 25th, Trooper Proctor claims to have actually recovered taillight pieces over the course of 5 additional undocumented searches of the Albert residence throughout the month of February. The only reason we even know about these searches is because when Trooper Proctor logged these pieces into evidence, he had to write his name, the date, and the place those pieces of taillight were supposedly found, 34 Fairview. That's 5 undocumented searches, Your Honor. We don't have a police report for any of those. No notes, no reports, no photographs of where those taillight pieces were found in the yard. No memorialization of the individuals who called Trooper Proctor to the scene. That is not acceptable. If this information exists, we're entitled to it. We need a short compliance date for the production of these notes and reports so that we can at least attempt to prevent further fabrication of evidence. That is deception.
Top of the morning, my fist in your face is fucking fold. We might be dying, standing on little candy shoulders. You park the pussy, a verb in your pansy pantyhose. I take snake them, DDT in mausoleum. A car master, killing cuts in my coliseum. They all actors, giving copies back to being. I fall back at the captain called that.
Bunches and bunches, punches is thrown into your frontlets. Oodles and noodles, bang bullets at suckers' noodles. Last album voodoo, proved that we was fucking brutal. I'm talking crazy, half past the clock is cuckoo. You rappers doodle, baby shit, just basic boo-boo. I'm talking.
Woo! Welcome, everybody. What a day. What a day. First off, I want to take a second and thank Turtle Boy for having me on this channel, and Brian from LTL True Crime for interacting with me and having a nice discussion. Very, very fascinating stuff that we heard today. This case just gets crazier and crazier because you got to understand that everything new that's coming to light, just about everything, if not everything new that is coming to light in regards to this case is the result of a separate federal investigation into the Norfolk County DA's office. This is something that is it's something I've never seen before. I don't know how unprecedented it is, but as far as this channel goes, it's absolutely unprecedented. And we're going to try to keep things light as much as we can. I think this is going to be a fun stream because this way, you know, we're going to go over the hearing. We can pause. We don't have to, you know, follow the same rules as far as first time hearing reactions and whatnot. I was on Turtle Boy's live stream where we were reacting to it. And it was a lot. But yeah, always a good time with Turtle Boy and Brian. So thanks to those guys. So and how about Microdots, guys? Microdots just knocks it out of the park. I mean, yeah, I was dropping the link to Microdots. I'll drop the link to Microdots' channel one more time. Make sure to subscribe. There's a lot of videos just like that on there. I'm sure there are more to come. Microdots is a fantastically talented creator, and very, very sharp. Yeah, this is I'm going to go over before we do, as usual, this has kind of become the norm, is to go over a little bit of Tom's streams, because I think what he's capturing is vital to streaming these hearings. I've come to that conclusion. Oh no. Oh my goodness. What in the...
I think we got a super dad. Super dad. I think we got a super dad. Super dad. Super dad. Super dad. I think we got a super dad.
Hayden Kane. Which of Canton's finest would you give the nickname Demon Cleaner to? Ooh, yeah, that's a good question. I will answer that at the end of the stream, or closer to the end, once we're done listening to this hearing one more time, because I want to fully understand it. Thank you, Hayden Kane. I really appreciate you. This is going to be wild. What's Dietz saying? What's up, Dietz? Thank you for giving him credit and waiting until afterwards instead stream sniping him like a loser. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Dietz. No, yeah, of course. Like, Turtle Boy contacted me and asked me if I would join, and I was happy to do so. Absolutely happy. Oh, CPU. Oh, yeah. Okay, you're talking about Tom, Dietz. Yeah, no, I try not to do that. I really like to let Tom get his views if I can, and then I stream him later is usually what I do. Because Tom CPU, what he's capturing is absolutely vital to everything. He's capturing those people out there, and you know, these are the people that want justice. They're out there and they see that there is injustice taking place, and they're not stupid, and they're being gaslit every single time that there is some sort of narrative being spun on some sort of mainstream media or tabloid channel. It's pretty disgusting. As a matter of fact, let me just go over something that I planned on going over as well before I get into Tom's footage here. And yes, I do have Tom's blessing to stream his footage, by the way, because he has an understanding as to why I do it. Now let me find this real quick. This was a bit bothersome when I watched it. Okay, here we go. Now, this Court TV dropped this morning. Yeah, it's fascinating here.
Steve, we know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
Do we? Now, let's talk about what's tipping the scales of justice in the case of defendant Karen Reed. The Boston woman is accused of killing her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, and she's set to be in court today for a motions hearing. Now, her defense team wants some access to some third-party phone records. If you hear Rule 17 thrown out in the courtroom, that's the rule that governs that, because we can't just be taking people's phone records. There has to be a good reason for it. And the prosecution is saying that there isn't. They're saying that the defense team here is on a, quote, fishing expedition.
There is no suggestion of a third-party culprit, no suggestion of cover-up of evidence, no suggestion from the 13 civilians witnesses' testimony that we've received or transcripts of that testimony. All of them confirmed that Mr. O'Keefe never entered 34 Fairview Road. All of it was absolutely no animosity between the individuals at the Waterfall Bar or at 34 Fairview residence. There was no fight. There was no dog attack. There was no eyewitness to the circumstances that led to Mr. O'Keefe's death.
All right, that was the prosecution at last week's hearing. So let's break down more of what the prosecution is saying in response to the defense's motion to get these cell phone records. Because remember, this is the defense team was asking for it, and the state has to respond. So I combed through their filing, and I pulled out a couple points for our discussion.
She combed through it, y'all.
Today, and unfortunately we can't get to it all, but just want to hit some highlights here. I want to bring in to help me out with this Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson in the studio, and criminal defense and civil rights attorney Casey Early, who is standing by remotely for us. So we know that Matt, Jennifer McCabe, who is was a friend of John O'Keefe's, which I think is really important to know. She only knows Karen Reed through John O'Keefe, is going to be a big witness, and she has been the subject of a lot of discussions. Tell me a little bit about the biggest thing the defense wants out of her.
Well, really, they're trying to explain these relationships for their theory of collusion and for a cover-up.
Yeah, it really sounded like you combed through everything.
But you have the defense that is really trying to get her phone records and other people's phone records because they want to show transparency. And sure, some relationships were not disclosed, but if they're going to cooperate and hand over their phones right away, what does that tell you?
Right. Well, and it's interesting you make that point because I was stunned when I read this, and Jennifer McCabe was happy to turn over her phone for a download immediately. Okay, I'm looking at this bottom of page 7 on the motion. Prior to Ms. McCabe entering their home and waking them up in their bedroom, her cell phone, which was downloaded by members of the Massachusetts State Police following her signed consent, shows calls from her phone to both Nicole and Brian Albert's phones, evidencing she was not part of a cover-up. So this is huge. When they try to make her seem like she's some disingenuous witness, this is someone who was woken up in the middle of the night by Karen Reed. Karen Reed.
Okay, bro, lady. Like, you see, when somebody with no skin in the game and who clearly hasn't really done a lot of research in this case talks like she's got skin in the game, I get side-eyed, man. This is the second time I've heard somebody talk like this on this panel. It's more than the second time. It's like the third or fourth, at least. That's not even including Coffindoffer. So, I mean, right. She did not go to sleep, dude. I got to hear this lady one more time, just so you guys hear what I'm talking about.
You have the defense that is really trying to get her phone records and other people's phone records because they want to show transparency. And sure, some relationships were not disclosed, but if they're going to cooperate.
This guy's just there to play devil's advocate. I love it.
Right, and hand over their phones right away. What does that tell you?
Right. Well, and it's interesting you make that point because I was stunned when I read this, and Jennifer McCabe was happy to turn over her phone for a download immediately.
I love that. Jennifer McCabe was happy to turn over her phone immediately. Yeah. Because she deleted everything. But why did her attorney file a motion for her to not have to testify? Explain that one, Miss Court TV lady. Why did she do that? I mean, she was happy to turn over her phone. But you're leaving out the fact that her attorney filed a motion for her to not have to testify. Since she's this person who was so inconvenienced and woken up in the middle of the night, but happy to go look for John O'Keefe, her friend, who they had play dates together and stuff, right? Their kids had play dates and stuff together. She was the one directly in contact with him all throughout the night, correct? So why would she actually fight having to testify in the pursuit of getting her friend justice? Why would she delete everything from her phone before being so happy to turn it in?
Okay, I'm looking at this bottom of page 7 on the motion. Prior to Ms. McCabe entering their home and waking them up in their bedroom, her cell phone, which was downloaded by members of the Massachusetts State Police following her signed consent, shows calls from her phone to both Nicole and Brian Albert's phones, evidencing she was not part of a cover-up. So this is huge when they try to make her seem like she's some from her home.
One more time.
Okay, I'm looking at this bottom of page 7.
So evidence that she was not part of a cover-up. Again, tell me you got skin in the game without telling me that you got skin in the game, lady. What the fuck is this? What the shit am I listening to right now? If this isn't the most biased shit I've ever heard. Like, what, are you and fucking Twattendoffer go shopping together? What is going on here?
Page 7 on the motion. Prior to Ms. McCabe entering their home and waking them up in their bedroom, her cell phone, which was downloaded by members of the Massachusetts State Police following her signed consent, shows calls from her phone to both Nicole and Brian Albert's phones, evidencing she was not part of a cover-up. So this is huge when they try to make
how is that anything but evidence that she was? What are you talking about, lady? How is that anything but evidence that she was part of a cover-up? I mean, she spoke to Brian and Nicole Albert, who both claimed to be asleep at the time. Like the very phone calls that you pointed out that supposedly prove, again, what is with these people, these Karen Read is so guilty people. What is with these people where they just say things out loud, expecting them to be real? Like, if I say the shit out loud, it must be. I don't understand. Like, it is pure gaslighting. It's just, it's a fucking lame attempt at a Jedi mind trick that's just not working. Because I'm sitting here going, what? You just said that out loud?
her seem like she's some disingenuous witness. This is someone who was woken up in the middle of the night by Karen Read. Karen Read had John O'Keefe's niece call her and say, please wake up. Karen Read was hysterical, said, can I come to your house? So that's one big thing.
Right, because that's so suspicious. Dude, do you want to know why she called Jen McCabe? I'm going to keep it fucking real with you guys. Do you know why Karen Read pressured or told, let's just even say pressured John O'Keefe's niece to wake up, to call and wake up Jen McCabe? Jen McCabe was not asleep, by the way, but to call Jen McCabe. It's because Karen Read, in some place in her mind, suspected the possibility that he was sleeping with her. They were close. They were tight. Their kids hung out together. She wanted to catch him in the act because she didn't know where he was. She is logically the first person that she would try to get a hold of. Totally like, fuck this. I don't give a shit. John is missing. Where is he? You haven't seen him? I haven't seen him. He's not with you. He's not in the house. Okay. And then she goes looking for him. And then there's this gap, which she'll get into, but I'll explain that. I mean, why wouldn't Karen Read suspect before thinking that he's dead? Why wouldn't she suspect that he hooked up with the one person that he was the closest to? So that's not suspicious of murder to me. That's her trying to find out if her boyfriend decided to fuck off after they argued and go sleep with somebody because they've been drunk. Somebody who she knows he felt close to.
Let's talk about something else that happened when Karen Read was home at John O'Keefe's house. Because remember, she was living at his house. And Casey, I want to bring you in on this. This was something I had no idea about till I read the Commonwealth's motion. But John O'Keefe had Ring doorbell video, 2 different Ring cameras set up on the house. And there's missing video from when Karen Read dropped him off at the party. And then when she left at 5:08 a.m. to go to Jennifer McCabe's house after she woke Jennifer up and said, you got to help me find John. Where is that video? So this motion talks about how the niece and the nephew of John O'Keefe were both interviewed and said we had no access to it, but Karen Read did. So the state.
You see what's going on there? There is a narrative being spun very irresponsibly of guilty before innocence, because that's not evidence. The fact that there's missing video for a certain period of time is not any more evidence than missing library video that they're claiming is nothing. You see what I'm saying? So there's no mention of the missing library video, not here at all. But for some reason, it's extremely suspicious that John O'Keefe's video has a missing gap. Right? Now, is that responsible reporting? There is something seriously wrong with this segment.
State is insinuating that she got rid of this evidence. Casey, what do you think about that?
Yeah, the state is hitting back. I mean, this has been zealous advocacy on behalf of Ms. Read. I mean, the defense have been combing through so much evidence, and then after they received the evidence from the prosecution, they filed motions stating that we're missing additional evidence. And in this case, they're asking the court to get additional witnesses access to their cell phone records because they believe that there is some type of communication or relationship between the officers and the witnesses. So the prosecution, they're not just standing and taking these punches. And that is a question that the court will need to resolve, because it shows that either she tampered with possible evidence in this case, and maybe she's not as innocent as the public may seem, and which is kind of weird because typically when you see defendants accused of murder in the court of public opinion, they're usually the ones that are not supported. So this is definitely going to play out, but I do believe they should get access to the witnesses' statements.
All right, Casey. Okay, and Matt, you had a point.
Yes, they absolutely should get access.
Yeah, I think that Casey is making the perfect point here. Again, we don't have a horse in the race, right?
Good point. Doesn't change our lives in any way.
Here's our disclaimer. I love it right here.
Again, we don't have a horse in the race, right?
Good point. Doesn't change our lives in any way, shape, or form. What happens?
But you have this case in the court of public opinion because you have those protesters and the people cheering for Karen Read and the optics of all of this. And Casey is exactly right, because this is the first time in these huge motions that you and I have read that we're getting more details about that grand jury indictment that led to these charges after 42 witnesses and 14 days.
Right, Matt. Right. It's almost like the public got this backwards, because the defense team, and kudos to them, they wanted to kick this case before trial. And so they made every effort to try to convince the public of their narrative.
So we're getting more facts now.
The state, oh yeah, tons of facts. Read up, people, read up. I'm telling you, everybody at home who's curious about this case, look at these motions. I've got one more, a big nugget I was totally unaware of till I read this on page 22. Karen Read goes back to the crime scene.
Big nugget.
Before going to Jennifer McCabe's home, according to the Commonwealth. So they have her on video at 5:08 a.m. leaving John O'Keefe's house. And then at 5:30, they know that's when she arrived at Jennifer McCabe's house. Carrie Roberts, John O'Keefe's other friend, joined them, and they all three drove over to the home that's located on, I believe it is Fairview Avenue, where the Alberts lived. So there's that period of time between 5:08 and 5:30 where there are cameras in the vicinity that see her Lexus SUV, and they check her phone records, and it lines up that she went back to that area. Why? Matt,
well, I think that this is going to prove conscience of guilt.
This guy right here didn't even answer the question. Because she was looking for her boyfriend who's missing. That's why she went back. If she went back, she was looking for John. That's the whole. She just called asking Jen McCabe where John was. Why wouldn't she backtrack? What would she be going back for? For what? To take, as we mentioned on Turtle Boys Live, to take the pieces of taillight that were found weeks later. 5 undocumented searches, as we saw in Microdot's video. 5 undocumented searches. On top of the fact that we learn also, I mean, we already knew it, but we hear that the feds confirm that the chief, Berkowitz, just happened to be driving by and found this piece of taillight. Hey, look, wow. Who had direct contact with Higgins, direct contact with Brian Albert. I mean, this is, come on, people. All right.
Thank you, Ron. Just a little bit of background.
Oh, my bad. All right, hold on. All right, let's check out Tom CPU. A little bit of his live before we get into the hearing.
LG's fake baby. Probably get that at D&E, right?
Absolutely.
Stuffed shells.
Yeah.
You guys brought it up. Hair gel. Lally for the hair gel.
No, we got butts. Lally's ripping butts.
Larry was here. No, he was hair gel first.
All right, we can do hair gel.
He was hair gel guy first.
What about Bukkake?
Oh, burner phones.
Yep. Oh, bottle caps. Colin was here drinking. Wait,
Bottle
is
cap?
it Bud Light?
Probably is.
I don't know.
Zima.
Oh. What else? Let's see. Bukkake. What's Bukkake?
I'll show you. The internet, a lunchbox.
Lizzie. What can we do for Lizzie?
Lizzie. because-
Wrapping paper. She received a gift.
No, Lizzie didn't get a gift.
She's going to. From
Yeah.
Julie.
Well, who would buy someone a gift?
I think we got a super dad. Super dad. Super dad. Super dad. Dad, 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 dad. I think we got a super dad. I think we got a super dad.
Street Squirrel, thank you, buddy. Part 1, 156 is when he is with the McAlbutts, and 158 is when the phone is knocked out of his hand. Yeah, we'll go over that too. I know I don't want to spend too much time on that though. Thank you, Street Squirrel. But yeah, it's pretty messed up that they did that. Right now, I just want to get a feel for, I want to focus on the positive. I want to get a feel for the folks out there that took time off from their jobs because this is so important to them. I mean, the whole thing is like, what am I working for? You know what I mean? What am I working for if not to have freedom of speech? And what am I contributing to the society for if it's not going to be a free society? So you got to respect that and you got to love that.
If that person was calling people's work trying to get them fired, like that don't make no
But
sense.
her husband covering it up. Remember?
Don't matter. He did what he did. Uh-oh, what are you finding now?
Oh, Allison! A red taillight.
Oh my God, I can't. It's a reflector, one of these.
Somebody's messing with us now. I'm talking.
Look at,
I need to find it.
Look how amazing that is right there, man. All those people on the steps, people camped up with American flags, took the time to make these signs. It's cold, it's windy.
Chin. Yeah. All right, let me go up these stairs and show you what I see from up here. All right, we got a cruiser in the corner again. Side now, right over there. Cruiser in the corner.
Hey, and you know what? Thank you, Danny Dew, member for 2 months. Hi, it was an honor to be at the courthouse today. Seriously, thank you, not just for becoming a member, obviously, but also thank you for being out there. I mean, I want to say thank you for your service in the same sense of honor that I would give a soldier. You guys are, without a doubt, you're out there fighting for our rights, just as any soldier would. You're just doing it in a peaceful way. You're just using a different method. And I applaud you. You guys are true Americans and you're soldiers. And I'm grateful to you guys. Seriously. I'm very grateful to you. Uh-oh. Carl Lively gifted 5 memberships. Let's see what we got here. Care Bear, 50 Cent Lucy, Lori C, Lisa Macy, Elliot Zidell. Right on. All last names I could pronounce, by the way. I think I pronounced them all right. Thank you, Carl Lively. That's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. And there's just people still showing up, you know? I sped it up a little bit just because I want to. We got quite a bit to cover. So, and I want to take a second to thank everybody on Twitter for watching. Let's see how many people I got on Twitter watching. I got 890 people on Twitter watching. Jeez. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
Move over. Let someone be over here. What's up? How you doing? Good to see you. I'm doing good. All right. Just so everyone knows, she's in charge of the Plymouth standout. Yep, Margie's here, but it's the boots. You can't miss the red boots.
Even Sonic had them on. I didn't even realize till someone said it when I had that big Sonic in my hands.
Okay. All right.
Hey, everyone.
So when is your standout?
Every Saturday, 1 to 3.
Where is it?
In Plymouth, on the bridge. And they tried to kick us off, and we refused to leave. They tried to kick us off. Very nice, but we refused to get off the bridge. And the cops never came this Saturday. It was threatened. But we just keep doing it.
So
And that's what I said. I've been here.
It's every Saturday. For how long? 3 months?
November. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
it's a problem?
Yeah.
Nope, we're not moving.
You've been there every weekend on that bridge.
Yep. Holidays,
Holding signs for Karen.
10 below.
Doesn't matter. Every Saturday. Yep.
See, that's crazy, man. These people are out there just, I mean, you're not even seeing all of the footage of these folks out there protesting and, you know, risking their own freedom because they could just as easily be charged the same way as Canton 9 and Turtle Boy. They could just as easily be charged. But those people are out there, man. That's crazy. That's amazing.
Every Saturday, we're not giving up.
Let me just.
And I still have long signs in my car if anybody wants.
Yep.
Proceeds
What's up, Tracy and Chasey?
go to Karen's defense fund.
Excellent.
$5 left.
Okay.
Anybody wants to buy one straight, get one straight.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
all right.
So this Saturday.
Well, now it's gonna pour out.
Yeah.
So we were talking about everyone just going down to Erica's drive-in because she's doing a fundraiser for the defense fund.
Oh, is she?
Yes.
That's even better.
20% of the whole day sales are going to her defense fund.
Okay, so that's a backup plan.
Take your
Good
families
plan.
down there,
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
Get some food. Say hi to Erica. The Easter Bunny's gonna be there if anyone has.
And make sure you guys sub to Resistant to Silence.
Oh, I didn't know that. How'd she finagle that? Well, she knows people. Wow. Probably her husband. Her husband does so much too. He does so much. They both do. What do you think of the idea of having the ending at the Star Drive-In?
Oh, I think that's.
You started there, kinda, right? Started there.
We were talking about Florian Hall. So
Something,
that's a
yeah.
great idea.
Plenty of room.
Yeah. Great idea. Plus, you'll probably have movies going by then.
I know someone that drives a bus that can pick people.
And guys, I dropped new merch today. I dropped new merch today. So I'm not gonna lie, like I'm really hoping to see like a shirt and even steal the design and put it on a sign, you know, at one of these protests. Like I'm dying to see that.
People up. Make a bus route out of the deal.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
All right. Would you like to say something to people? How are you?
Thanks.
All right.
I love her. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.
You know
I
what?
love that shit. That was hilarious.
Are you ready for this? I was talking to their son and daughter, husband and wife. They have a son, a little kid. He's 10 years old. You know what he tells me? She's absolutely innocent because of the dog bites. You know, he also says that she was the only one trying to save John's life.
Yeah.
He's 10 years old.
Listen, I was listening. Make sure, guys, to sub up to Brandy Churchwell, the 13th juror. Make sure to sub up to her. She had Bob Motta Bob Mata or Moda, I'm not sure how to say his name, on there from Defense Diaries. And he was just spitting facts, dude. Like he was just telling it like it is. He's an attorney, and he was on 13th Juror after the hearing. Just Mata. Okay, thank you, Dietz. So yeah, he was just dropping bombs. Like it was great. It was great listening to him. I would love to get him up here at some point.
He's 10. You can't tell him to say that. It's
10-year-old's a smart kid.
smart kid, 10, and he knows. So
I listened to you all the way in.
thank
but
you.
I lost you.
Yeah, YouTube had issues. It got a hiccup, I think. But
I get those.
so,
as well.
what do you think about today?
I'm praying a lot.
Okay, so have I. But what do you like? Do you think it's going to be a good day?
Man, God bless Tom for coming out here and talking to these folks, man. Like I feel like I know them. I love it so much.
Bombs.
I hope, yes.
Yeah.
I think they might be.
Nice. Okay.
I always have hope.
There's always hope. That's why we've been here every single
That's
time.
right.
There's always hope. You're absolutely right. All right.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Nice.
I'm just gonna watch this play out.
Hey.
Good to see you.
Peter, thank you.
Peter Murphy right there.
Thank you for everything.
Now there's Peter Murphy. He's ex-Canton. He used to train the Canton cops. He was on Sean on the Gulf, and that was a great live. So that's who Tom's talking to here. And so you see Peter Murphy out there on the front lines with these folks, man, which is very, very inspiring.
For everything.
Thank you. So I and the red team. We're all in it.
Listen, there's a lot of
There it
people
is.
that really
Look, there it is. There's the sign. Oh my God, I still can't get over that.
Red team. We're all in it.
listen. There's a lot of people that really appreciate what you did by going online and just telling the truth.
It's easy to do that, isn't it? It's a lot easier to tell the truth than it is to tell a lie.
Funny how that works,
Funny
isn't
how
it?
that works.
And it doesn't change either.
Inside this courthouse should figure it out. Just saying.
What? I know we can't predict the future. No one can.
You gotta love that
But
guy.
what do you think about today?
I'm guessing they're going to peel back quite a bit of information that's going to give them an opportunity to get subpoenas to get into those phones. And you know it's going to be damaging. I suspect very damaging to the people whose phones they're going after. Am I right?
How important is it that they get access
I think we got a super chat.
to the phones?
I think it's critical. I think it's the last nails in the coffin.
Okay. All right. What do you think about the phones that were told to be destroyed?
The ones that were told by Judge Crupps to stay preserved.
Those would be the ones.
The ones that the DA allegedly told them it's okay to destroy them. Those phones.
Those are the ones. Yeah.
Oh.
Look at this, dude. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, get comfortable, y'all, because we're gonna be here for a minute, man. We're gonna go over that whole hearing. So
I think it's just one more, maybe poor choice of words, bullet in the gun that they can exclude Morrissey from the rest of this trial.
Okay.
And maybe more.
bro, I never thought.
So,
I never thought that my troll level would reach that point. Like I am absolutely totally patting myself on the back. Like I am absolutely giving myself a round of applause because I had no idea the lack of bounds in my troll abilities. That's fan-fucking-tastic. Like, wait till that shit shows up in a documentary on Netflix. Oh, God, Church. We love you here, buddy.
police officer. Now we're gonna get a little technical here, okay?
Uh-oh. You might lose me. Go ahead.
How important is it that they throw out the evidence based on the chain of custody?
It's huge.
Like
It's
people,
huge.
how big is people don't? We know that the taillight in the car have nothing to do with it. We know that. They believe that that is part of it. They're gonna let that go.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of exculpable information that's going to come out today, and it's going to start. There's a standout. Right?
Nice.
Now, I love this because after we watched this, Peter Murphy is absolutely on the money. There's going to be more information that comes out today. They're not just going to file this motion and expect to not hear more reasons why they filed the motion. So, which is exactly what happens. So Peter Murphy is absolutely correct.
Always hear that guy. So if the judge allows that or throws that out, now what do they have? What does the Commonwealth have if they remove the taillight?
They got the summer off. The case is closed. Don't you agree?
100%. Based on chain of custody.
Absolutely. Which is
everything.
It's everything.
Yeah.
You know.
See,
We've already heard.
There's Peter Murphy validating my shit, dude. I love when that fucking happens. I mean, we watched in Microdot's video earlier. It wasn't until Proctor had John O'Keefe's clothing that was all over the floor in the hospital. He had it for weeks. He had access to it for weeks that was undocumented. Not bagged, not tagged, nothing. And then they're going to magically find microscopic fragments of taillight in it after he found 37 pieces of taillight in 5 undocumented searches. After the chief of police, Berkowitz, finds the first piece of taillight magically. Oh, look. Holy cow. Is that a piece of taillight? I better call Higgins. What? Why are you calling Higgins? He's a witness. The fuck is going on here? So, I mean, people, like, if you don't find that shit absolutely suspicious, you're insane. And Peter Murphy doesn't even know this shit yet. Like, he only knows how it works. Oh, I just got a PayPal. Who's that from? Real quick. Jackie, thank you so much for the PayPal. I appreciate it. Sometimes I see the notification come through. So, I mean, yeah, dude, Peter Murphy absolutely totally knows how this works. And he hasn't even heard the hearing yet. This is before the hearing that we're about to listen to.
You heard from the defense, right, that both they had 3,174 pages, and as did the prosecution, of exculpatory. And with that, the U.S. Attorney's Office said, we strongly recommend that this case not go to trial. What else do they need?
Right. Yep.
Yet, I believe the prosecution still is pushing to go to trial. All that's going to do is give an opportunity for more witnesses to perjure themselves for a second and third time. Have a nice day.
How important is it that they bring the chief and Brian Higgins into the situation now?
I think it's critical.
At this juncture?
That's critical.
Why didn't they bring them in earlier?
Why didn't the prosecution bring them in earlier?
Yeah.
I think for the obvious reasons. I mean, why didn't they bring evidence in that was asked for by the defense for 6-10 months? And
Right. And what's really funny is we find out during this hearing that even the third parties that are mentioned here, even one of their attorneys mentions that they requested something. They filed a motion for information from the Commonwealth. The judge ordered the motion, ordered that the Commonwealth comply. They didn't comply. And then I just love Bev's reaction to it, by the way. Oh, I just love it.
And they never brought that.
What if they get the chief's phone?
Which chief are we speaking about? Berkowitz?
Berkowitz.
Former chief?
Well, he was always chief.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But what do you think about grabbing his phone?
Oh. Oof. Oof. I bet today he's not having a good day. Just guessing.
Yep.
Just saying.
I think you're right. I like that.
All right.
Listen,
Thank you
Peter.
for all you're doing.
No, thank you, my friend. People love you out there. You've just been.
There's no I in the word team. We're all
Listen,
together. Whether it's me or people halfway up the stairs.
People. You give people energy. You give them. You get that.
You know who Peter Murphy is, bro? Peter Murphy is totally Martin Sheen in The Departed. He's totally Martin Sheen. I love it.
That lift that they need. So thank you. We appreciate that. All right.
Yeah, I know. Actually, no, she's older than you. No, I know. Yeah.
All right.
I'm older than you. I was at her 50. Yeah, she's, what's going on?
What's up?
Hey, boss. The trap coming out smoking. Did you guys see
You want to see the guy say hi?
Quincy Chicks.
Quincy Chicks. All right. It's all right. It's not cold. It's you know, there's my bud. Wait till you see this guy who I talk to now. This guy here rocks.
He rocks.
You wearing shorts again? I know you always.
Look at this
You know
guy.
what I just.
This dude is hardcore, bro. It's windy and cold as fuck, and this guy's out there in fucking thin ass shorts.
Few people that always wear shorts. You're one of them. I know, like this. I know that. So can I listen? I got to ask you some questions.
Go ahead.
What do you think about today?
I think it's going to be a good day. Going to drop some bombs on the prosecution's case, and I think it's going to be a good day.
Okay. What do you think about the chief being involved now?
Oh, he was always involved, but now they brought him into the fray because whatever they got from the feds, it's telling.
Oh, I just got a Venmo from Lori. Thank you so much, Lori. I appreciate you.
His involvement, but we knew he was involved from the get-go.
Right.
But now we know he's more involved.
So my next question is off the wall. What about the audit?
What about the audit?
What about the audit?
It's going to go through. They're stalling for whatever reason. They're not giving up any information regarding who McCarthy picked as well. So,
they don't even know?
He hasn't divulged that.
Oh my God! All right.
It's just
wow.
It's more shenanigans.
Yeah.
from the
Okay.
board.
Yeah. Well, we're used to that, unfortunately.
More
but-
shenanigans.
Wow. Okay.
So we just have to put up with it and see how it unfolds.
Nice. All right. Listen, thank you so much for everything you're doing, standing up and stuff.
None that I'm aware of yet, Dave's channel, but I'm curious to know what the update is on them as well, for sure.
A lot of people standing behind you.
Right.
So,
right. You
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Well, we're all in this together.
We're fed up.
Peter said, it's a team where everyone's doing a little piece,
Yeah, exactly.
Works out good. But we need you up there speaking because people just rallying behind you.
Yeah, great.
So,
thanks, Sean.
No problem, my friend. I'll talk to you. All right. Oh, dear.
Yeah. Did I give a shout out to the Glare, Tom?
Yeah.
Glare, what's up? It's Benjamin John, brother. How you doing today?
Oh,
Cherry,
shit.
at Cherry, hashtag hey sweetie.
Oh shit! I'm so glad I'm going over this. Benjamin John, that's him right there, dude. Is he in the chat right now? That's my homie, dude. This is fucking fantastic. Dude wanted to shout me out specifically. Hold on, I gotta play that one more time.
Yeah. Did I give a shout out to the Glare, Tom?
Yeah.
Glare, what's up? It's Benjamin John, brother. How you doing today? Cherry,
I
at Cherry,
love it.
hashtag hey sweetie.
Isn't Cherry wonderful?
Yes, she's
She's
wonderful.
awesome.
And God loves her. She's wonderful.
Yep. Cherry, we got your fan club over here, girl. No doubt.
Cherry.
Yeah.
I will.
And Will, yeah.
Oh, that's dope, man. Man, that's so dope. You guys are fucking dope, man. Seriously. Hey, and this is factual right here. This is factual. Like, I will take that kind of love over 1 million subscribers any day. Any day. It's not even a question for me. It's not even a fucking that I would have to think about it. I swear. That is so cool to have that kind of support, man. Like man, seriously, that's really beautiful. I appreciate that, guys.
What's up?
Today.
Say hey.
Let's drop some more bombs today.
Big ones.
Yeah.
A lot of people are looking for it.
I can't wait.
No doubt.
I need to hear something more. Last week was such a slap.
Oh.
Now it's just like, okay, the beat down is on. Let's go. These guys are amazing. Well, Jackson did that.
Yeah, dude,
Aren't
you
they
gotta
crazy
love Dana,
awesome?
bro.
Tracy did that video last week when we started the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Make sure to sub to Resistance to Silence, because that's Dana right there.
them. They're superheroes. So it's awesome.
They really are. I mean, it's you look at them and you're like, I want them. I would want them as my attorney. You know? Problem is we can't afford them. That's the problem, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's all, yeah, I'm good. I'm glad for today, and I'm hoping that it brings more things forward. I think that's going to come to an end soon.
Yeah. Yeah, Cat 9. No answer to nothing. No answer to these guys. All they did was stand on the sidewalk, which they're allowed to do.
Exactly. From what I understand, the magistrate has not had 90 days, but then I heard it was actually 120. So
Oh.
we're at like 60 something days now.
That's it?
Yeah.
We're only 60?
Yeah, so they can drag it up.
Oh, man.
But
That's
I think
that's
this-
not fair to
this is gonna
them.
dictate what happens with that. So yeah, I guess you trust
Yep.
Is there any way I could talk to you off the record real quick?
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure somebody else has it.
Yeah.
Good?
Don't hit that button. No, there you go.
We're good.
Yeah, this side.
Take a quick walk.
All right, I wanted to make sure that Tom knew how to work whatever he was working, and I don't want to accidentally pick it up and Tom
All right,
not
I'm live
realize
on-
that he was streaming.
Tom's channel. Look at I'm on.
Okay, yeah, that's
I'm not going to do the same job as Tom does.
That's right. When I came back to this, he handed his phone off to somebody else. Somebody else had his phone. I was wondering why somebody else had his phone.
That's what I'm trying. Hey, how you doing?
It was Dana.
Hey, look at all these people. Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing, buddy?
What's up, Paul?
You all waiting in line to go in? No? You're gonna wait in line to go inside? You've been inside before? We're live. Do you mind being on live? Good. This is Tom's channel.
So you need to focus on the stairs over there.
Yeah. Go like this. I know, right?
Show nothing. It makes sense. No, I love Tom.
Now, Tom got pulled away for a second, so. Look at night, Cynthia. Hey, how are you? Yep, everybody hit the like button. Tom's out here all the time, every day, just doing what he does. He does such an amazing job. I could never fill his shoes here, but
Here we go. Look at. There we go. Say hi.
Hi.
I'm live on Tom's channel.
Oh, hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Oh, you got Tom's phone?
I got Tom's phone. He gets the tan down there for some reason. So I'm trying. I don't know. We'll see what the comments bring. Tom's gonna be like, "You'll never hold that again." Big line waiting to get inside. We're looking forward to it today. It's going to be another bomb dropping day. Crowd's great. It's only 1 o'clock. So love it. Yay! Here he is. Here comes the man. Here, Tom's like, I got a break for a second.
I need a break.
See? Okay. I have no idea what's going on. We keep losing signal over here. I'm watching. I'm not going to be held accountable. I'm not a trained professional like Tom is. I'm not here every time. But anyway, hopefully we'll hold connect. I'm waiting for Gary. We have no idea. Yeah. I'm waiting.
So I don't know what happened with Tom at that moment there, but
in one place right now.
None of our business, really. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over now to the hearing. Oh, wait, there's a new we'll play that after we go over the hearing. But there's a new court TV segment that I want to check out. But it's
He's Greg Henning. Can you make one to Zoom?
What's up, Tom? Great job out there today, buddy.
Really?
Thank you for everything you do, man. Seriously. I think Tom deserves an applause, a standing ovation from the Oscar guy. Look at all those Hollywood elites.
Get off.
Let's get.
You are unmuted.
Oh wait, this is when the camera knocked over. We'll get to see what happened with Grant. Hold on. Grant was right there, and it was weird.
Not today, just filing. All right. Thanks, Greg. Thank you. True, you used to work in Suffolk with Margaret.
You are unmuted.
Didn't see her down here today.
Watch. They're gonna show. There's Grant right there. See him? Grant's out here just knocking shit over. He's butt dialing. I love it. I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist. Is there a section of the gallery where I can take my THC suppository? It's my medicine.
The other one is that I don't have anything written, but it's just very
They just told Grant to move along. Like, get the fuck out of here, guy. What is going on in here, bro? What is this guy doing? I guess he's trying to stand it onto a tripod. Yeah, that's what I guess it is. Okay, like, okay, you can't get your tripod to work. Did Bullhorn Betty break yours too? Was Betty in the gallery? Did she break in her this guy, the Court TV's tripod, as well as Olivia's? Is that what's going on here?
I guess she's signed to Devon District now, Martha. So you could always just call her if it's not. But
even the bailiff looks like an Albert. All I see is Alberts fucking everywhere. Yeah, I doubt we're gonna get a hot mic moment here. Let's just
catch up on.
We there yet?
Officer John, will you come up here? All rise to the court, please.
There we go. Look at that. Yo, my fast forward game is on point, son.
Now, what we need seated. Good afternoon, Your Honor. We are on the record on Commonwealth versus Karen Reed on docket 22 CR 117. Beginning with the ADA, can we have the parties state their appearances, please?
Adam Lally for the Commonwealth. Good afternoon, Your
Good afternoon, Mr. Lally.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Laura McLaughlin for the Commonwealth.
Good afternoon, Ms. McLaughlin.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. David Yannetti for Karen Reed. With me is my sister, Attorney Tanis Yannetti.
Good afternoon, Mr. Yannetti. Good afternoon, Ms. Yannetti. Good afternoon, Ms. Reed. Okay, we ready to start? All right. So what I'd like to do, the order I'd like to go in is, first of all, the Rule 17 motion regarding Trooper Proctor. So we did receive, and it was docketed today, an appearance of Attorney Michael DeStefano. And in his response to the defendant's motion, he tells us that Michael Proctor does not object to the defendant's motion for an order pursuant to Rule 17, seeking records from the Mass State Police Internal Affairs Division. So he doesn't object to that, so that motion's allowed. Any comment, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor, I would just say that the Commonwealth also does not object. Spoken to legal counsel from state police, they do not object. Whatever limited materials are available at this time have already been provided to counsel for both sides, with the recognition of an ongoing obligation to provide materials as they exist. So no objection to that being allowed without objection.
All right, so that's one done. The second motion that I'd like to start with is the defendant's motion for Rule 17 directed to Kevin Albert, Brian Higgins, and Brian Albert. Before we begin on this, Mr. Lally, is the Commonwealth opposed to either of the other two motions? Just a yes or no? And
Yes.
okay, and do we have third-party counsel here on either of these objecting?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, all right, so I'll hear from you then, Mr. Yannetti, on your Rule 17 motion, seeking records from April 23rd to the present.
Thank you, Your Honor. With regard to this motion, Your Honor, Brian Albert was served with a subpoena to testify before a federal grand jury, and he begins reaching out for Brian Higgins. Brian Higgins testified to the federal grand jury that he stopped taking Brian Albert's calls. He stopped replying to Brian Albert's text messages. It's fair to say that led to a panic in the Albert family. We learned that Brian Albert contacted his brother, Canton Police Officer Kevin Albert, to intervene.
I'm actually going to stop you there for 1 second. Mr. Lally, is Kevin Albert a Commonwealth witness?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Now, bear in mind, Your Honor, that the Canton police were supposedly conflicted out of this case at that point.
So I want to know where that is in the record before me, because I think you know, as Massachusetts counsel, that the state police have jurisdiction over homicides, correct?
Oh, they do, yes.
So where is it in the record that they were conflicted out?
Those are in reports that the prosecution provided to us. Mr. Lally also told me that orally early on in this.
Okay, so I need those reports. I need that reference.
Okay, we're happy to provide that, Judge.
Okay, so I'd like it by tomorrow morning.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay.
So the Canton police had a conflict precisely because Kevin Albert is an officer in their department. So how can they conduct an investigation which includes the brother of one of their officers? It stands to reason they can't. They appeared to recognize that. Yet Chief Berkowitz is talking to witnesses in this case, and Kevin Albert himself inserted himself into this case. Brian Albert testified to the federal grand jury about the fact that after Brian Albert received a federal grand jury subpoena, Kevin Albert contacted Brian Higgins. Kevin Albert said to Higgins, and I quote, "Look, you went off the grid and Brian doesn't understand. You haven't called him, you haven't checked in on him since these subpoenas go out. Everyone got a subpoena but you." Those were Kevin Albert's words to Brian Higgins. And Your Honor, there's only one way to interpret that.
Right.
Brian Albert was panicked that that Brian Higgins had flipped on him. Brian Albert enlists his Canton police officer brother to contact Higgins to try and find out if that was the case. And it wasn't just text messages between them. After first testifying that he didn't want to talk to Kevin Albert about the investigation, Brian Higgins later admitted that before he testified before the federal grand jury on June 1st of 2023, Higgins and Kevin Albert talked on the phone for a good 15 minutes. That was 2 days before he testified before the federal grand jury. Before he testifies to the feds, Brian Higgins is conferring with Kevin Albert, who's supposedly conflicted out of the case. So, my goodness, with all the allegations of witness intimidation thrown around by this DA's office and special prosecutors they appoint, why has Kevin Albert never been investigated for witness intimidation? And for that matter, why has Brian Albert never been investigated? We're not asking for much here. We're only asking for relevant phone records. We're asking for contact between Kevin Albert and Higgins and Brian Albert. We're asking for contact that violates the self-recusal of the Scranton Police Department from this investigation. Contact which impeaches them, contact which is relevant to their motives in this case. It impeaches the investigation. We are entitled to explore whether this investigation was conducted correctly and ethically. And we're entitled to explore whether improper influence was put upon witnesses by the Alberts. Without this testimony, this federal testimony from Higgins, and without the federal investigation, we never would have known of Kevin Albert's involvement here. But now we do. And the Commonwealth does. Why aren't they curious about what was said and why? They've announced an objection to this motion. Why are they fighting our quest to get exculpatory evidence? We need this evidence, these phone records, in admissible form. That's why we're filing this Rule 17 motion. We have more than met the requirements of Lampron. The records are relevant because they tend to show a cover-up. They are relevant because they show a Canton police officer inserting himself into a case in which his department was conflicted out precisely because he was an officer there. They're relevant because they impeach the credibility of Commonwealth witnesses who deny that they are a part of a conspiracy, yet the phone records tend to show they were conspiring together. We cannot get these records any other way. We cannot effectively prepare for trial without these witnesses.
So you testified as to their relevancy. How are they evidentiary?
They're evidentiary because they are both.
Is that a serious question? That how those records would be evidentiary? Is that a serious fucking question coming from a judge after what he just explained? Of course they're evidentiary. There's some serious shady dealings going on here, at least enough to look into. At least enough to look into. How can Auntie Bev sit there with a straight face and say, how could those records be evidentiary? Of course they're evidentiary.
Both relevant and material, and if they're provided by the providers with an appropriate affidavit from a keeper of records, they're admissible. The Commonwealth could have gotten these records at any point, but they chose not to. And they have fought our efforts to get all phone records. Thank goodness another law enforcement agency stepped in and did the job that the DA's office should have done, but did not.
Translation. So every single time that the defense tried to gain phone records from these so-called witnesses, every single time the prosecution has fought them on it. It wasn't until an independent law enforcement agency stepped in, a federal law enforcement agency stepped in to conduct their own independent investigation. It wasn't until then that they were able to access these phone records. So they want to know, they want subpoenas for these witnesses' phone records. They want subpoenas for these third parties. They want to know what Kevin Albert had to say. They want to know what Brian Higgins had to say. They want to know what Brian Albert had to say. And they want to know what they had to say to each other. And they want to know what they had to say to Chief Berkowitz. And they have given, Yannetti has given every decent reason possible why they should have access to those phone records. And, well, I'll let this go before I continue with my thoughts.
We need these records. Going to trial without them would violate my client's rights to exculpatory evidence. It would violate her due process rights. And finally, to the extent that this court previously ruled that our requests for phone records were a fishing expedition, nobody can claim that anymore with a straight face. We now have testimony that these records exist, that calls exist, that text messages exist. As Mr. Lally said in the last hearing, phones do not lie. These phone records.
That's why we're here, Buzzing for Truth. I went over this. We reacted to this in real time on Turtle Boy's live stream earlier. This is going to be me watching this a second time with you guys, and then I'll share my thoughts once this is over. Thank you, Buzzing for Truth.
Do not lie. We need them, and we ask the court to order them.
All right. It looks like you're asking the parties themselves to bring these in, though.
To the extent that they have them, that's accurate, Your Honor. We're also asking for their phone providers to
So
provide them as
they're,
well.
they're two separately filed motions, right? And
Yes.
one of them is with Mr. Berkowitz, or former Chief Berkowitz, but he's not on the other. So I saw them as two distinct motions, and the one that we just heard you on, is really asking them to deliver whatever records, right?
Correct. And I would note that the providers are on the second motion, except for
that's three different people, or one different person on this.
one different person. So we have Higgins and we have Brian Albert on the first motion. We have Higgins and we have Brian Albert on the second motion. The difference is Berkowitz versus Kevin Albert.
Right.
Right.
Okay. All right. Mr. Lally, I'll hear from you, and then I do see Mr. Henning here. I don't know if he wants to speak or not, but I'm going to hear from Mr. Lally now.
Your Honor, just very briefly with regard to this motion. With regard to the Rule 17 motion with request to records or communications from individual cell phones from April 1st of 2023 to the present day. Firstly, the Commonwealth would just indicate the facts as recited in the defendant's motion the Commonwealth would submit are largely inaccurate. It's injected with hyperbole, injected with conjecture, in regard to federal grand jury materials, which belie much of what counsel claims that they say. Essentially unsubstantiated conjecture, which is directly contradicted by the testimony and the evidence contained within the federal materials. Now, I know that the court has had those materials and has carefully reviewed those materials, so I don't feel the need to go into each and every specific ground. However, what I would say is, secondly, even assuming that everything contained within counsel's motion was true and accurate, the defendant's motion in this specific instance fails on two grounds. Number one, what the Commonwealth would submit is that the time period that's being requested is far too overbroad for whatever collusion or whatever purportedly occurred, according to counsel, going from almost a year worth of communications from people who admittedly, through the testimony and through the evidence that was presented and has been presented in both forms, knew each other well and knew each other well before any of this occurred, and continue to associate and be friends following this incident.
Which is why it's a conflict of interest, smartass.
Secondly, the sort of last paragraph of counsel's motion claims that the records are needed to establish the exact nature and extent. What the Commonwealth would submit is really what they are needed for, from counsel's perspective, is to establish the existence of these conversations and what the content of them were, which is the very epitome of a fishing expedition. And so for those two reasons, the Commonwealth would submit that the defendant has not met the standard under Lampron, and that motion should be denied.
All right. So I see Mr. Henning, so I don't know. Do you want to be heard? Yeah, please come forward. And I don't know who counsel is for Mr. Higgins, but if he or she's here, do you want to be heard as well, sir? Great. So I'll hear you after I hear from Mr. Henning.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon.
On behalf of Brian Albert, I just wanted to put three things on the record for the court. The first is, and I'm sure the court is aware, that the parties that are the subject of the Rule 17 motion have not actually received the motions. We got the cover page, we got the orders and the proposed orders, but we have not been able to review the actual memoranda because, at least according to the interpretation of the protective order, we're not entitled to see that content. And that...
All right. I ruled that they were to be given.
Right.
Because the federal proceeding is not to interfere with this court's proceedings.
I understand that, Your Honor, and I did receive the court's order, and I informed each of the respective
Today,
counsel that I spoke
Junior!
to as far as what the court's order was. And I also understand that the court hasn't had the opportunity to review the federal protective order, but my interpretation of that order simply would not permit dissemination of the material contained within the memorandum.
Even though the Lampron Protocol says shall, doesn't that supersede a federal protective order? It's the law of the SJC. How can third-party record holders, the people who Rule 17 in the case law protects, not be able to go forward without it?
And I understand there's a direct contradiction there. And so out of an abundance of caution.
Okay, no, I understand you're following your order. I'm going to make it available. Not a party to any protective
You already
order.
did.
So we can take a recess. You can have them now. What do you all want to do? I mean,
You already
I
did
didn't
make
know
it
that the
available.
Commonwealth was not complying with my order. I understand why you didn't, but I didn't know that.
My apologies.
I'm happy to be heard now, and if the court will allow us to review the motion and the memoranda, we can amend with a written filing if there's something that we need.
Yes, pursuant to a protective order, the way we have them in the Massachusetts courts for Lampron Dwyer records.
Okay.
So,
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
yes.
I'm Prince Adam, and I've been hiding in the basement of Grayskull smoking meth with Tila for the last 6 months.
I think we got a super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat. Super cat. Super cat. Super cat.
Your Honor, what I think the counsel for the third party could ask is that
I think we got a super cat.
Oh man, Paul Cristoforo, thank you so much, buddy. Today's buzzwords, butt dial. It was also interesting hearing everyone chant liar, liar so loudly, wondering if 100 of us were getting charges coming soon and give me the dance. Oh, witness intimidation charges. You got the dance, buddy. Right on. Oh my God.
that we are able to address the court today, but allow us an opportunity to review the memoranda and submit something in writing before the court makes an order.
Sure. I'm just rereading the appendix on Dwyer, and it is a shall. So my view is that the SJC in Commonwealth versus Dwyer, the procedure that we're to follow, allows certainly, and I say mandates, that the third-party record holders be given this information. So we will provide it when we take a recess today. I'll ask Mr. Clerk to make copies of what I have, not what the lawyers have. We need protective orders signed before you're given them. And I will have them given to all three record holders, or four if there's somebody here from Mr. Berkowitz. All right, I'll hear you.
Thank you. The first part of what I wanted to address is dovetails with what Your Honor is just addressing. The fact that we are third parties in this matter and do not have access to the materials that are in the subject of the discussion from the federal side of things makes us at a disadvantage here in front of the court. Obviously, we're going to remedy that, hopefully by being able to review it. But that notwithstanding, the fact that there is materials that we can't review that are being discussed in front of the court, even if we are able to see the memoranda, makes it difficult to address these. And I think for an issue of fairness, I want to make sure that the record's clear. If there are future motions, I want to preserve and not waive any argument as to the fairness of being able to access those records. So that would be the first point. The second point is, going into this, not having an opportunity to review the record, I do believe that the Rule 17 standard of relevance still needs to be met regardless of whether we get to see the material or not. So what I do want to offer to the court to consider as part of your determination here is that after receiving the notice from the Commonwealth last week, I contacted the U.S. Attorney's Office and I spoke to the lead prosecutor in the case.
Okay.
What I want to have the court know is that I have permission to notify the court that Brian Albert, his wife Nicole, his son Brian Jr., and Caitlin are not targets of the federal investigation. And I've been given permission to disclose that in open court.
Okay.
So I think it's important for the court to know that as you go into the motion that you're considering and the arguments from the defense. The third thing I would like to just ask the court is, notwithstanding everything that's just been said and reserving the right to file that written document later on, Brian Albert does not object to turning over the materials that are being requested. I understand that the Commonwealth may be having objections as to the Commonwealth's case, but Brian Albert does not have anything to hide. He does not have anything that he needs to prevent the court from seeing this material. And if the court does deem, after reviewing the material and having access to the federal records, that these are somehow relevant or that these are somehow admissible, and the court deems that Rule 17 has been satisfied, Brian Albert will comply with the court order.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of Kevin Albert, present is Peter Paschuko, and on behalf of Brian Higgins is William Connolly.
Great. Thank you. All right, so counsel, I need you to spell your name for me, please.
Yes, Your Honor. The last name is Connolly, Connolly.
And what's your first name?
William.
Thank you. All right, I will hear you on behalf of Mr. Higgins.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, real quick,
Before
before we get into that,
phone records and communications are at issue.
before we get into that, let's talk about Brian Albert's attorney there and what he says. So he discloses, because this is important, he discloses that the U.S. Attorney's Office, the prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office, acknowledged that Brian Albert is not a target in their current investigation. And so, I mean, that's important. Now, he forgot to add the word yet. That's where I'm getting at. He forgot to add the word yet, because the thing is I am still absolutely convinced that Brian Albert has plenty to hide. And by him still objecting to showing his phone records and still and saying, I have nothing to hide, but no, you can't see my phone. You can't look into my phone. Now, it's interesting how you also have to look at the grand scheme of things here. If you step back and look in at the broad view, okay, you have the very same office that is under federal investigation. The way that they obtained Turtle Boy's tech and Karen Reed's tech is they basically just busted in and took it. They didn't file motions for it. They didn't go through they didn't go through this process, this constitutional process that Yannetti and Jackson are going through in order to get this tech. This is something to very, very, very much take into consideration here. Look at the difference between their process, Yannetti and Jackson's process, and how they're obtaining tech, and look at how the very office that is under federal investigation obtained Turtle Boy's and Karen Reed's tech. There's a vast difference. That right there should be an indication that there's something seriously wrong here. Because the fact is even though his attorney, Brian Albert's attorney, sat up there and was like, oh, well, you know, we've got nothing to hide. Brian Albert has nothing to hide, but no, you cannot see his tech. I mean, we know all about Brian Albert. And he's saying, well, if it turns out that, you know, the Rule 17 motion thing, you know, yeah, we'll comply. But in the meantime, no, we're good. We have nothing to hide. But you saying you have nothing to hide versus showing the world that you have something to hide. Because what happened to getting a fellow police officer justice? Why wouldn't this officer, Brian Albert, or this former officer, I guess he's retired now, right? Why wouldn't he just simply show what I mean. That's it. Why not some sort of deal where it's like, okay, I can't be prosecuted for this and this and this. If it doesn't have anything to do directly with John O'Keefe's death, why not come up with some sort of deal and say, okay, if you see this and you see this, then I want full immunity for that. And, but as far as John O'Keefe's death, I have nothing to hide. And so you could take my phone and this is all you can use against me. I mean, I'm not an attorney, but I've heard of things happening like that, right? So why isn't Brian Albert ready to cooperate in any way, shape, or form in order to get justice for a fellow police officer, for a brother in blue? Nobody's going to find that suspicious, because the only argument would be, well, why should they have to have their privacy violated? Well, I mean, okay, that's fair. Sure. But at the same time, I mean, it's still telling me that they have something to hide. It's telling me something about their character. If they are police officers and they believe that this has gone too far, the circus, we're over it. We're sick and tired of this. We're sick and tired of all the stuff that's been happening to us thanks to Turtle Boy and his bullshit. We are done. Fine. Look at the phone. But no, that didn't happen. They're still fighting this tooth and nail. Why? If they have nothing to hide. Why? Team Brittany gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much, Team Brittany. Let's see real quick. Big Red's Mama, My Father's Keeper, Supermax Captain, Valhalla, Lisa Finnegan, Val Casagranda, Leah Baker, Lauren TZY, Aussie Insider, and Jess. Congrats, guys. And thank you so much, Team Brittany. You are way too generous. I appreciate it.
In these motions, Brian Higgins is a federal ATF agent. He is a witness in the Commonwealth's prosecution of this case.
Okay. Now, again, watch and listen, because we're going to get Brian Higgins' resume here. Okay? Very important that we all understand Brian Higgins' resume.
He has cooperated fully in the Commonwealth's investigation. As this court knows, we've not had the benefit of seeing the factual support for these motions, but I want to provide some information that likely isn't contained within those materials submitted to the court, but of which I have a good faith basis to believe is information contained in the materials provided by the federal government to the parties in this case. I have represented Brian Higgins since April of 2023, the month when he received the federal grand jury subpoena. Like he has in this case, Brian has cooperated fully with the federal investigation. He has answered every question put to him in both investigations, and he will continue to do so because he has nothing to hide. Brian Higgins is not a target of the federal investigation. That has been confirmed by the United States Attorney's Office and confirmed to me that I could make that representation in court. The U.S. Attorney's Office has continuously confirmed throughout its investigation that Brian Higgins is not a target of their investigation. Brian Higgins has not participated in any kind of a cover-up or conspiracy to cover up the criminal activity of others.
Now, the fact is, with everything that has come to light so far, whether we like it or not, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, as far as everyone who is inside that house, I am personally of the opinion that Brian Higgins had more motive than anybody. Because it all keeps going back to him, the communication of him. Something, he is playing a major role here. Either he absolutely knows what happened to John O'Keefe, or is directly responsible in some way, shape, or form. So this is Yeah, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. But he definitely knows. That is what I'm sure of. He knows for sure. The phone calls are already suspect as hell.
Brian has spent his career saving lives. He was a firefighter before becoming an ATF agent. He has been an EMT since 1992. He received a congressional medal for saving the life of a fellow ATF task force officer after being shot 5 times in Somerville, Massachusetts. He has served our military in Iraq. Participating in a cover-up is contrary.
And I hate that because I totally, on paper, respect the fuck out of this guy. Absolutely 100%. Team Brittany gifted 5 more memberships. Thank you so much. TW72, Jules, your confidence is poquito. You win handle of the day, by the way. Latoya, Ruby Shoes. Congrats, guys. Thank you so much. Team Brittany, again. Appreciate you. Right. I mean, I hate to put it like that because the guy's obviously served his country and has done a good job as a cop. But, I mean, if he pissed it away on this one thing, then he pissed it away on this one thing.
To who he is as a human being and a professional. I am here to represent Brian's interest in privacy. Brian Higgins, at my urging, will not capitulate and stand down when efforts are made to further intrude upon his privacy based upon sheer speculation. It is for that reason that we oppose these motions, not because Brian Higgins has done something wrong or has anything to hide. We know this court will give us an opportunity to review the motions and supplement our remarks if we deem it necessary. We know this court will fairly weigh the arguments before it and will render a fair decision, and we will respect that decision and we will comply with that decision. Respectfully, we do not believe there is a sufficient factual basis to support the relief requested in the motions before the court.
There's
Thank you, Your Honor.
beyond a factual
Thank you very
basis.
much.
There is an outside independent federal investigation whose findings have made that motion valid. So the thing is this guy's whole thing was basically like, for the reasons, not because he has nothing to hide, but because he has this amazing record, this amazing track record of serving his country and serving his community as a police officer, as a federal DEA agent. Awesome. Fantastic. And I respect the hell out of that. But someone with that type of track record, I would think would absolutely give up his phone records and be like, look, motherfuckers, and now I'm going to take every single one of you fuckers to court for what you're doing to my name. I mean, it's just how I would imagine it would go. Not, I'm going to pay my lawyer thousands and thousands of dollars to make sure that they don't look at my phone. You know what I mean? Or ATF, not DEA. Sorry about that. ATF. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Counsel.
And I'm going to be honest with you. As a borderline libertarian, not a fan of the ATF. Just being honest. Nothing against an ATF agent individually. The existence of the ATF is what bothers me.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Attorney Peter Paschuko on behalf of Kevin Albert.
All right, so you need to spell that last name.
Sure, it's
for us.
Pasciucco.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a little bit of background with respect to Mr. Albert, and we are objecting to this Rule 17 motion. Kevin Albert's a 19-and-a-half-year veteran of the Canton Police Department, extremely well-respected, extremely well-liked. Any insinuation that he participated in a conspiracy or a cover-up is simply untrue. There's been no showing how personal communications between my client and Mr. Higgins have any relevance here, let alone evidentiary value. Kevin Albert is not a Commonwealth witness. He did not testify in the federal grand jury, and his involvement is essentially zero. This is a clear intrusion, as Attorney Connolly indicated, into the privacy rights of these individuals. And I've advised Kevin that there is simply no reason to acquiesce to something that's just clearly a fishing expedition. So upon my advice, Kevin Albert is objecting to this Rule 17 motion, but we will.
This is fun because I wonder, because especially if they have nothing to hide, I wonder if the Commonwealth had complied with all of the motions for discovery 2 years ago. I wonder if we'd be here now. I wonder if these motions would be filed. Now, I believe they would be. I believe they would be, because I believe that the federal investigation has absolutely uncovered things that merit further investigation, for sure. But what I'm saying is, I mean, how am I not supposed to think that if I'm thinking Karen Read is guilty? Would we be here today had they just shared discovery? If the Commonwealth didn't make it seem like they had all kinds of things to hide, like sharing possible exculpatory evidence, and here it seems that they're doing it, that they're doing it again. I mean, it's fascinating to me. Would they have? I mean, shouldn't the Karen Read is guilty crowd be asking that question right now? Would we be here right now asking for those phone records? Would we be here right now with the defense asking for these phone records if they had complied with the motions that Aunt Bev ordered before, as far as sharing possible exculpatory evidence of in discovery with the defense? It's absolutely what they should have done, and they never did. Hell, they're saying that the evidence no longer exists. But it matters now, even though it no longer exists. Somehow in that wording, it implies that it matters that it did exist at one point. If it no longer exists, somehow that matters. But it did exist at one point. That's what it implies. By saying it no longer exists, it implies that it matters that at some point it did exist. No, it doesn't matter. Because how the fuck do we know? So, like, you got to listen to the language here, you know? Like, that's fascinating to me that they're sitting there going, it no longer exists. The metadata and the device used to take the crime scene photographs no longer exist. As if it's, you know, as if they could present to a jury and go, hey, we had it at one point. We just don't have it now. But that matters. Just so you know. Get real, dude.
We will honor and respect the court's decision and appreciate the time to supplement any response in writing after we see the motion and affidavit, which hasn't been provided to us yet.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Yannetti, did you want to respond or no?
No, I would just move to the next motion if the court were ready.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next motion. Mr. Lally, you didn't want to add anything, did you?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so this motion concerns Brian Albert, Kenneth Berkowitz, Brian Higgins.
Yes, and Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to start with Brian Higgins with regard to this motion.
All right, so Mr. Lally, is it safe to assume you did not provide or you didn't comply with my order in providing the motions and supporting affidavits on this as well to the third party record holders and their lawyers?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the council will receive copies of this as well. And
I love
be
it.
permitted to argue now.
I love it. Let's hear that one more time. I love that.
Or you didn't comply with my order and provide, or you didn't comply with my order and you did not provide, or you didn't comply with my order and providing the motions and supporting affidavits on this as well.
Yeah. So everything that I just talked about, by the way, guys, everything that I just brought up about them not sharing discovery, even though she ordered the prosecution to share this stuff, but never did anything about it. Right. And I've been pointing this out for weeks that Auntie Bev has yet to even follow through with some sort of reprimand for the prosecution not following her orders. And now we know that it's just a big joke to her, that it's funny. It's funny that the prosecution just doesn't even that the prosecution fails to meet the rights that Karen Read has, the basic right to a fair trial. That it's funny to Auntie Bev. It's a joke. Right? Auntie Bev thinks it's hilarious that the prosecution is robbing Karen Read of her right to a fair trial. I love it. Thank you, Auntie Bev.
Well, to the third party record holders and their lawyers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So the council will receive copies of this as well and be permitted to argue now and supplement it. All right.
Thank you, Your Honor. As I previously mentioned, Brian Higgins did testify before the federal grand jury. And at that time, he was specifically asked if on January 29th of 2022, he made any phone calls when he got home. He said that he did not. He testified that he lived alone. He testified that he was alone that night. He testified there was nobody else in his bedroom. He testified that when he went to bed, he placed his phone on the bedside table. After making those admissions, he was confronted by a federal prosecutor with his phone records. Those records revealed that Brian Albert called Brian Higgins at 2:22 in the morning on January 29.
Okay. So Higgins fucking lied. All right. So Higgins claimed that he was caught on the stand. Like the federal prosecutor asked him and he said, I live alone and I my phone was and I was alone. I was asleep and my phone was on the nightstand next to me. Right. And then when he's confronted with his phone records,
those records reveal, moreover, that 17 seconds later, Brian Higgins called Brian Albert back, and that call lasted for 22 seconds. Now, when he was first confronted, Brian Higgins first tried to claim that it had to have been a butt dial. That term butt dial is used by many of the Commonwealth's witnesses to explain the many calls between them and among them. And I've never seen a case where there have been so many butt dials, to be
So if there is a conspiracy, which I absolutely believe there is, all of these people, when getting together and having these watch parties that I believe take place at someone's house, sometimes the McCabe's, sometimes the Alberts, when they have these little watch parties, I could just imagine them sitting around and going, well, how do we explain the phone calls? I mean, they know we deleted them, but they still have them. How do we explain this? Butt dial. Butt dial. Butt dial? Yeah, butt dial. Everybody butt dial. All right. All right. Everybody in right now. 1, 2, 3. Butt dial. And then that's it. That's how they come up with the story for the butt dial. I mean, this is just great. Because what this shows me is these are not the most coordinated and gifted and organized bunch of folks to cover up this conspiracy. They're not at all. Hell, they're not even trying. And why do I think that they're not even trying? Because, well, look at how hard of a time they're having with common sense suspicious behavior. Suspicious behavior that anyone with common sense can point out and go, this is fucking suspicious. They could just write it off. Like it's all, whatever. Why? Because they're made up by a bunch of fucking cops and cops' family members. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. This is the common consensus behind all of their thinking. As long as we shut the fuck down and shut the fuck up, they can't do shit. We can pretty much say whatever the fuck we want. As long as we give them nothing, they got nothing. That's the common consensus behind what they're doing, because their answers are consistent with this. Their answers are consistent with a bunch of people saying, give them nothing, they got nothing. I mean, let's just be honest here. They're not even trying. Butt dial, butt dial. Everybody's got the butt dial excuse. Everyone agreed on the butt dial excuse. Incredible.
To be frank. But Mr. Higgins was already locked in. He already testified his phone was on the bedside table. His butt was in the bed, the phone was in the table. The two could not have met, Your Honor. There was no possibility of a butt dial. And then Higgins admitted that.
There is no possibility. So you've got a federal prosecutor with Higgins on the stand testifying in front of a grand jury. You've got Higgins sitting there on the stand like, and you've got a federal prosecutor going, so how is it that your phone was sitting on the nightstand and your butt was in your bed and yet you somehow managed to butt dial? And Higgins is caught. Higgins is like, all of this can be referenced. There's no fucking way that David Yannetti would be standing up there quoting a grand jury testimony without being able to prove it. There is no way. That shit happened. I guarantee you that shit happened. And that shit being that a federal prosecutor sat there and told Higgins, please explain to me how you butt dialed somebody with your butt in the bed and your phone on the nightstand. And in the very same line of questioning is where he said his phone was. Thank you, Team Brittany. Federal Agent Butt Dial. Got you again, Will. Oh, my God. Yeah, I mean, that's... Dude, when this is all over, that shit is going to be talked about forever. That's going to be in the movie. Some dude just sitting there having to explain away a butt dial that was impossible to make.
And that wasn't Mr. Higgins leaving Brian Albert a voicemail. He also admitted under oath that the toll records would have reflected a voicemail if they went to voicemail. He admitted that to call Brian Albert back, he would have had to first reach for his phone, then unlock it with the passcode or Face ID. Then he would have to press on Brian Albert's number. And that is exactly what he did. And he testified that that was what he did. He also testified that nobody from the Commonwealth, not Trooper Proctor, not ADA Lally, no one has.
So he lied. Not, oops, I didn't remember correctly. No, he fucking lied. He gave specifics. My phone was next to me on the bed or on the nightstand, and I was in bed. And then he says, well, how could you have done it? Well, then you had to have put in your passcode or your Face ID and then dialed the number. No? And then, of course, Higgins is cornered. And he says, yeah, that's what I did.
Has ever asked him about that phone call from Brian Alberts to Higgins, or the return phone call from Higgins to Albert lasting 22 seconds. Rather than get everyone's phone records, as this court knows, the Commonwealth has fought the defense at every turn in our quest to get the phone records. They've persuaded this court that we were previously on a fishing expedition, to the extent the court once thought.
Oh my God, that works so well on so many levels. The McAlberts. If you say McAlberts in a Boston accent, it comes out McAlberts. Oh my God, I hate you all.
Thought otherwise, it is clear this is no longer a fishing expedition.
God.
We do not have to go fishing to wonder anymore whether calls were made. We now know that someone who had been in that house when John O'Keefe arrived called the homeowner at 2:22 in the morning, 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found on the homeowner's lawn. We learned that neither party to that call ever revealed to police, investigators.
Thank you, D. Brittany. How's do you butt dial before a murder, asking for a friend?
Or prosecutors that they connected by phone in those early morning hours. Just like Jennifer McCabe never revealed that at around the same time she was Googling.
Dude, I've got over 2,400 people watching me on Twitter right now, which I never intended to ever happen. That's pretty amazing. Thank you guys on Twitter that are watching. I appreciate you guys.
Googling, asking how long it took for someone to die in the cold, a search that the FBI confirms happened at 2:27 in the morning, again, about 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found. Now, for his part, Brian Albert also first tried to claim that his phone call to Brian Higgins at 2:22 in the morning was a butt dial. He said that he was awake and watching TV, but he was called back to the grand jury to testify a second time. The second time, Brian Albert changed his testimony to say that at 2:22 in the morning, he and his wife were in bed in an intimate situation.
Hold on. I got to hear all that one more time.
Arrived. We do not have to go fishing to wonder anymore whether calls were made. We now know that someone who had been in that house when John O'Keefe arrived called the homeowner at 2:22 in the morning, 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found on the homeowner's lawn. We learned that neither party to that call ever revealed to police, investigators, or prosecutors that they connected by phone in those early morning hours. Just like Jennifer McCabe never revealed that at around the same time she was Googling, asking how long it took for someone to die in the cold, a search that the FBI confirms happened at 2:27 in the morning, again, about 3.5 hours before John O'Keefe's body was found.
And if you guys want a great explanation as to the technical aspect of how that search did happen at 2:27 a.m., check out the 13th juror, Brandy Churchwell's video that she dropped yesterday. Please take a look at it. I went over it live yesterday, but it is amazing. It is amazing.
Now, for his part, Brian Albert also first tried to claim that his phone call to Brian Higgins at 2:22 in the morning was a butt dial. He said that he was awake and watching TV, but he was called back to the grand jury to testify a second time. The second time, Brian Albert changed his testimony to say that at 2:22 in the morning, he and his wife were in bed in an intimate situation. He claimed that he had his phone with him in the bed. So now he's claiming that it was during that intimate situation with his wife that he supposedly butt dialed Brian Higgins. He had no explanation, however, for how his phone picked up when Higgins called him back 17 seconds later. He had no explanation for the 22-second phone conversation that followed. And it's worth noting that Higgins testified he never heard any intimate noises on the other end of the line either. Brian Albert tried to maintain that he butt.
Okay. Let's break that down for a second. So Brian Albert claims, because we're talking about the exchange between two phones. Okay. So this exchange is between Brian Higgins' phone, Brian Albert's phone. Okay. The Bryans. Now, Brian Higgins claims that his phone butt dialed, but then once he's caught lying about butt dialing, because his phone is up on the nightstand and he's in bed, he explains, okay, no, yeah, I put in my Face ID or whatever in my passcode and then, you know, dialed Brian Albert, right? Now, when Brian Albert's asked about this, Brian Albert says that he and Nicole are engaged in coitus. Okay? Engaged in coitus, engaged in sex, the physical act of love. Okay?
Oh, that must be exhausting.
Exactly. Now, apparently, he butt dialed Higgins while he was slapping hams with his wife, right? And apparently, there's no explanation, because what happens is Higgins ends up calling him back, and they speak for, what is it, 22 seconds? I don't know what it is, but there's no explanation. And Higgins says that he didn't hear any intimacy happening. So obviously there's some sort of, I mean, he's busting some moves, right? Busting some moves to where I guess it's under him or under Nicole. And he's busting some moves and probably a swirl, since in order to answer and pick up an iPhone, and I'm assuming it's probably an iPhone, you got to slide the answer button. So I'm wondering what kind of, I mean, does Brian got moves or what? So, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no, because if you're busting these kind of moves, he's working hard. And there's no Nicole like saying, give it to me, or moaning or anything. So I'm just not buying it. I don't think that Brian Albert's got those kind of moves. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe that he's got those kind of moves, and those kind of moves that would have caused him to not only butt dial or butt answer Brian Higgins, but then butt dial Brian Higgins back. I don't see it with the kind of moves that would have to produce those particular actions from taking place. You know, that they would have to produce those actions to take place. Nicole Albert's not moaning, not even a, ooh, yeah, not even a, nothing. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. No way Nicole is that dead of a fish. No way Brian Albert is that much of a sex machine that Nicole Albert does not respond in some verbal manner. Just don't buy it. Sorry.
Butt dialed Higgins. But again, that would mean that his butt also answered the phone when Higgins called back, and it doesn't make any sense.
No, it
Both
is not.
men denied talking to each other despite being confronted with that mountain of evidence by federal prosecutors. But it wasn't just the January 29th, 2022 calls between Higgins and Albert. Brian Higgins' phone records, we learned, reveal that Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz was involved in interacting with both men shortly
Yikes.
after John O'Keefe's body was found. And again, recall, they're supposedly conflicted out of this case.
So I'm going to, there's just a question I have, and I'll let you continue.
So interesting. Let's talk about that for a second before we get into Auntie Bev's intervention here. So let's talk about that for a second. So Canton Police, they don't have jurisdiction over a homicide. Massachusetts State Police do. So Proctor almost immediately takes over this investigation, right? Canton Police no longer involved. Yet for some reason, the chief of Canton Police decides to get directly involved, even though Canton Police no longer is involved in this investigation whatsoever. But yet the very top of the Canton Police Department decides to get directly involved in an investigation that the Canton Police have no jurisdiction over anymore. But that's not suspicious. Not at all. Not even a little bit, right? He's just a good Samaritan, right? Okay.
Mr. Yannetti, but regarding the dates, so the dates of the records you're seeking
January
for Brian
29th.
Albert, so January 29th to February 4th.
Or 4th or 5th, yes.
4th. That's what you're
That's
seeking.
fine. That's fine.
And for Kenneth Burke.
Yeah, okay. Quiet, Bev. Just 1 second, because I want to get through this thought. Let's also keep in mind the phone calls with Jennifer McCabe and Nicole Albert. What about the phone calls between Jennifer McCabe and Nicole Albert? Right? So these phone calls are supposedly taking place right after John O'Keefe's body is found, right? Between Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Chief Berkowitz of the Canton Police Department. Just factor that in.
Berkowitz, January 29th to February 18th, and Brian Higgins, January 29th to February 18th. I need you to explain to me why those dates, why
Right, so-
February 4th and February 18th.
There was testimony in the federal grand jury that Berkowitz and Higgins were speaking to each other up through the 18th. With regard to Mr. Albert, we had evidence through the 5th.
All right, it's not entirely clear from the affidavit. Okay. All right, so go ahead. Thank you for answering that, and I'll hear you. Go ahead, continue.
Right. So as soon as John O'Keefe showed up deceased on Brian Albert's lawn, Canton Police decided it might not be a good idea for them to be involved in investigating this case. And by the way, I'm reminded when I sat down that District Attorney Morrissey announced that publicly. So we knew that early on.
Okay, so is that in his statement that I've had copies of?
It is not in the video statement that we moved to sanction him for. It was a previous statement that he issued.
All right, so get that to me, okay?
That's fine, Your Honor.
Okay, hold on. I got to hear that one more time.
For them to be involved in investigating this case. As soon as John O'Keefe showed up deceased on Brian Albert's lawn, Canton Police decided it might not be a good idea for them to be involved in investigating this case. And by the way, I'm reminded when I sat down that District Attorney Morrissey announced that publicly. So we knew that early on.
Okay, so is that in his statement that I've had copies of?
It is not in the video statement that we moved to sanction him for. It was a previous statement that he issued.
All right, so get that to me, okay?
That's fine, Your Honor. So
not in the video statement. He wants to be clear about that. Not in the video statement where Michael Morrissey says it needs to stop. Not in that one, but in a previous statement, he stated that the Canton police are not involved in the investigation into John O'Keefe's death.
The question is, why was Chief Berkowitz inserting himself into this case almost immediately?
Right.
United States Attorney Joshua Levy questioned Higgins about that in the federal grand jury. He summarized the phone records in their possession, records the feds have that we do not, records we're asking this court to order so that both parties in this case can review them. Mr. Levy directed a question to Mr. Higgins in the grand jury where he asked about all of the back and forth between him and Brian Albert and Chief Berkowitz. Quote, you have a 3-minute call from or with Berkowitz at 7:22 in the morning. This is on January 29th. Another call with him for, then you have a call with Brian Albert that afternoon for 12 minutes. Another call with him for 6 minutes. Another call for a minute. Then another call with Albert for 10 minutes. Then a call with Berkowitz for 4 minutes. Higgins spoke with Berkowitz on January 29th, someone who was conflicted out of the investigation 4 times. And then they spoke many additional times between January 29th and February 4th.
But Higgins had nothing to do with the investigation, correct?
He was a witness in the investigation.
Okay, at that point,
We have a chief of police who's supposedly.
I'm sorry, I just need to, so at that point, you say he was a witness?
I'm sorry?
At that point, the point of the phone calls, he was a witness?
Yes, he was in the home, Your Honor.
Okay.
He was not spoken to by investigators yet, but clearly he's a witness. He was at the home that night.
Right. So he hasn't been named a witness yet. Brian Higgins, an ATF officer, was definitely, it turns out later that he was a witness, and he was not officially a witness yet, but it doesn't matter because that raises suspicion. Because it has to be more than a coincidence that since before, because that's even more suspicious. One would say, well, he wasn't a witness yet, so why is that suspicious? No. That's absolutely suspicious. Because what kind of coincidence is there when someone who later turns out to be inside that home is communicating directly with the chief of police, and that chief of police just happens to be so involved in the case when he shouldn't be?
Now, recall that Chief Berkowitz supposedly found a piece of taillight on Brian Albert's lawn on February 4th, after that lawn had been searched by trained and.
Okay. So Chief Berkowitz is having communications with someone who has not been named a witness yet, but is a witness because he was inside this home the night in question. Absolutely 100%. Someone who the prosecution is claiming had an affair with Karen Reed, the defendant, right? But yet this man is having direct communications between himself and the chief of police in Canton, who is not assigned the case. It is no longer a Canton police investigation because it's a homicide. So here is this witness talking to Berkowitz, and this witness is talking to Brian Albert, having direct communication, ping-ponging communications between Berkowitz and Brian Albert, Berkowitz, Brian Albert. And Berkowitz just happens to find, driving by 34 Fairview for whatever reason, just leisurely driving by, and happens to find the first piece of taillight in the lawn. And then 5 undocumented searches take place by Trooper Proctor. But nothing to see here, folks. Is that supposed to be fucking funny?
Investigators and other police officers multiple times without finding it, but somehow Chief Berkowitz was able to spot that piece of taillight while he was driving past the property from his moving vehicle. And the phone records show that Berkowitz called Higgins that very day to tell him about the discovery, and then Higgins calls Brian Albert to tell him. In a case where we are alleging as part of our defense.
Why would Berkowitz call Higgins about that discovery of the taillight? Who the fuck is Higgins at this point? Think about that for a second. At this point in all of this, in the timeline of events, Berkowitz isn't assigned to the case, yet he finds a piece of taillight after there were multiple searches that took place and nothing was found. And Berkowitz all of a sudden finds this taillight, and yet he calls Higgins, who has nothing to do with this case on paper yet. Hadn't even been established yet that he was inside the home. So why is Berkowitz calling Higgins to let him know about the found taillight, about the discovered piece of taillight? Who the fuck is Higgins at this point? He's fucking nobody. Yet vital information is being shared with him about this investigation by the chief of police of a police force that is not assigned to this case, has nothing to do with this case. Come on. Come on, man.
That there is a third-party culprit, and at least some people are involved in a conspiracy to cover up the guilt of that third-party culprit or culprits. Contact between co-conspirators could not be more relevant. Before the feds got involved, we fought for this information, but we were largely unsuccessful. Although we never had to prove that the phone records actually contained evidence of the conspiracy. That's something we couldn't do without having the records themselves. This court has previously ruled that it was all too speculative. Not anymore. Not now. Not after we know that the records exist. Not after we know they prove what we suspected that they would prove. We now know that those records will tell a story that could not be more relevant to this case and to our defense. And the problem, Your Honor, is we know the records are there. We have them in summary fashion, but we don't have them in admissible form. The feds have revealed that they exist, but they haven't released the actual records to us. They have them, we don't have them. That's why we're filing this Rule 17 motion. And again, we've more than met the requirements of Lampron. These records are relevant to our defense because they show suspicious contact between parties we allege to be in a conspiracy. They're relevant because they show the Canton police chief inserting himself into a case when it was previously determined that he was conflicted out. They are relevant because they impeach the credibility of Commonwealth witnesses who denied talking to each other, yet have no explanation for these records, which again, do not lie. We cannot get the records any other way. We cannot effectively prepare for trial without these records. The Commonwealth could have gotten them, but they chose not to. They fought our efforts to get them. But again, thank God, another law enforcement agency stepped in and did what the DA should have done. Going to trial without these records would violate my client's due process rights. And finally, to the extent that this court previously ruled that our requests were a fishing expedition, we can't maintain that now with a straight face. We now have the receipts. It's confirmed we were never on a fishing expedition.
Yannetti said receipts. I love that shit. We got receipts.
We were merely on an expedition to obtain relevant material and exculpatory evidence, and we're simply on a mission to defend our client. And I would ask the court to allow this motion.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Lally.
So, Your Honor, the Commonwealth does not object to this motion. The only question or clarification that
What's up, Dave?
I'd ask for is...
Hold on, before I play this guy's bullshit, hold on. Dave from Making Law Simple says, we don't have the evidence. Turn over the evidence to the state. State 6 months later, we don't have the evidence. See, turn over the evidence, state, and again and again. Constantly, right. And Judge Beverly Canone has not done shit about this. As a matter of fact, earlier she joked about it. It's a joke now. Judge Bev thinks it's funny that the Commonwealth refuses to comply with Karen Reed's basic rights.
Whereas there seems to be a discrepancy in the dates that I'm not really finding any support for within the context of the motion. So
that's why I asked. So
my question was a different one as to the dates, though. So when it directed towards individual people, it's a time period beginning on January 29th. When it's directed towards the cell phone carriers or providers, it begins with a period on January 28th, which is the day prior to anything occurring. So I'm not sure why anything on the 28th has any relevancy. There's nothing in the motion that I can glean that indicates that. I don't know if it's a Scrivener's error or if there's some other reason for that period for those providers to be starting a day early.
what do you say about that, Mr. Yannetti? Your affidavit says the 29th.
Right. I would orally amend that to the 29th, Your Honor. We're fine with that.
All right. I'm going to hear from the third party counsel if they want to be heard.
Your Honor, if I may, just one further thing. I did speak with counsel. It's attorney Kenneth Anderson, who represents Mr. Berkowitz. There's no objection on behalf of his client.
Okay, thank you. All right, so Mr. Conley?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, well, with respect to our general arguments, we'll just rest on I'll rest on what I said previously. And we respect the parties' positions. I just want to point out one thing with respect to the factual.
I mean, that's got a different fucking look on it, doesn't it? Everything that this guy was just saying the last time he was up there addressing the judge, doesn't it have a different, it's got a different look on it now, don't it? It's got a different shine on it. My man was sitting there painting Higgins to be this upstanding individual, which in a lot of ways he is. Like I said, on paper, looks great up until he's caught on lies by a federal prosecutor in front of a grand jury. Interesting. Again, it's all great. Dude is a hero up until he lies in front of a grand jury and is caught by a federal prosecutor. Now, let's see what this guy has to say.
Actual assertion. I don't have the privilege of seeing the grand jury testimony, but I can represent to the court that before my client ever testified at the grand jury, he voluntarily appeared for an interview with the U.S. Attorney's Office. I attended that interview, and at that interview, he volunteered to the U.S. Attorney's Office that on that morning he spoke to both Albert and Berkowitz. He was not asked and did not give a rundown of how many times, but he acknowledged long before he testified at the grand jury that he did speak with both of them that day. I don't think that impacts the substance of the arguments, but I just
wanted
to note that.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, the Commonwealth hasn't objected to these records for that period of time that appears to be relevant time period.
And so I will waive argument on that, Your Honor.
All right, and does counsel object to these records? Mr. Henning on behalf of Brian Albert. All right, and counsel on behalf of, that doesn't concern you.
Okay, so this is interesting. So basically, they're objecting to the records of communication between Brian Albert and Higgins. Higgins' attorney is objecting to the records that pertain to the communication between him and Brian Albert. But now, Higgins' attorney is not objecting to the records between him and Berkowitz. So now she's asking Lolly if he objects to the records of communication between Berkowitz and Higgins.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Defendant filed, Mr. Yannetti, you filed a motion that I just got. Thank you. That doesn't concern you. Okay. All right. And counsel on behalf of Okay. Oh, that doesn't concern you. Okay.
Okay, so I guess the Commonwealth doesn't give a shit about the records with Berkowitz. I wonder why that is. Now, some might be saying, well, because there's nothing to hide. Okay. I mean, all right. Let's see.
All right. Thank you. Defendant filed, Mr. Yannetti, you filed a motion that I just got as I was walking out here.
Right, we're not asking to be heard on that motion. I had alerted your clerk that it would be coming. It's filed with.
Now, that begs the question that cannot be ignored. Why are they cool with the communications, the records between Berkowitz and Higgins? Why is Higgins' attorney and why is Lolly okay with the communications between Higgins and Berkowitz, but not Brian Albert? We're cool with these, but not these. Why? And we're supposed to not think that that's suspicious? I mean, come on, people. You got to use your eyes. You got to use your eyes. This is fucking bizarre.
With a motion to impound as well. I figured I would hand deliver it today.
Okay,
The
great.
Commonwealth just got it today, so they'll need time to assess that.
All right. So today, all pre-trial non-evidentiary motions have to be filed pursuant to
Yes.
the order.
Yes.
All right. So this is it. This is what
No,
the
I expect by the end of the business today, the court will be receiving a motion to dismiss to be heard next week as well.
All right. And you can't be here next week.
I cannot, and on that.
Okay, now I think it's interesting. I mean, that is true. Higgins is a Fed. Could he have cut a deal with Josh Levy? Could Higgins have cut a deal with Josh Levy? That's the question. Does Higgins have motive as far as being a Fed himself? So why is Higgins okay with certain parts of his communication being reviewed by the defense, but not others? I mean, I don't know, but it's weird.
On that point, Your Honor, I think the court probably was alerted that we filed a second motion to admit counsel from California, Pro Hoc Vice. I don't know that it's necessary, but
I'm glad you filed it because I think it is. If you're not here and you have to be here
that's why
for that.
we did.
So
That's why we did that. So
Ms. Yannetti will, I'll allow that motion now that you have filed your appearance.
thank you so much.
Okay. All right. So you expect that there will be more motions coming today?
I expect there'll be one additional motion coming today.
All right. Does the Commonwealth have anything that it expects to be filing by the end of today?
Your Honor, just filed a motion for reciprocal discovery. I'm not asking for any action on it, but I believe that would be it.
Okay. And I have one question. Are we all done with Bodie Labs? Have you received the information from them?
So on one part of the testing, yes.
Okay.
On the second piece of the testing, no.
All right. So I need a report on that orally on Tuesday.
Sure.
Where we are with that. All right. Great. I'll see everyone Tuesday. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
March 26, 9 a.m. hearing on all pretrial non-evidentiary motions.
Brian? All right, Brian, we have a 3 o'clock list.
I'll come in right now.
Okay, thank you.
You are muted.
I think we got a super cat. Super cat. I think we got a super cat. Super cat. Super cat. Super cat. 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 I think we got a super cat. I think we got a super cat. I think we got a super cat. I think we got a
Thank you so much, Scott McGinnis. Hold on a second here. Let me Scott McGinnis says, possible if Higgins is working with feds, Berkowitz is a target. Berkowitz was tight with DA Fat Cat Morrissey. Lots more to this book to come. Agreed, Scott McGinnis. That makes perfect sense. If Higgins is working with the feds, Berkowitz is a target, right? Because Berkowitz, if you've got something on Berkowitz, then it's going to be real easy. He's got a lot to lose. So if you get something on Berkowitz, he's for sure going to flip on Michael Morrissey. Most definitely going to flip on Michael Morrissey. I've never seen anything like this happening in real time. This is the craziest shit I have ever covered, people. Make no mistake about that. Make absolutely no mistake about that. Now, let's see what Court TV had to say about this. This should be interesting.
Thank you, Ron. Just a little bit of background with respect to Mr. Albert, and we are objecting to this Rule 17 motion. Kevin Albert's a 19-and-a-half-year veteran of the Canton Police Department, extremely well-respected, extremely well-liked. Any insinuation that he participated in a conspiracy or cover-up is simply untrue. There's been no showing how personal communications between my client and Mr. Higgins have any relevance here, let alone evidentiary value. Kevin Albert is not a Commonwealth witness. He did not testify in the federal grand jury, and his involvement is essentially zero. This is a clear intrusion, as Attorney Connolly indicated, into the privacy rights of these individuals. And I've advised Kevin that there is simply no reason to acquiesce to something that's just clearly a fishing expedition. So upon my advice, Kevin Albert is objecting to this Rule 17 motion, but we will honor and respect the court's decision and appreciate the time to supplement any response in writing.
See, now this is interesting too, in the sense that Brian Albert's attorney straight up said Brian Albert is not a target of this investigation. Kevin Albert did not even testify in front of the grand jury, right? So if there is a conspiracy, and if John O'Keefe was murdered inside that house and Brian covered it up, or Kevin Albert has knowledge of it, right? You have to look at it in the sense of the feds are going for a higher target. If it turns out that DA Morrissey spearheaded this this prosecution, this farce of a prosecution against Karen Read, because remember, that's why we're all here. First and foremost, Yannetti and Jackson's job is to defend Karen Read, is to get these charges off of her. Okay? Just because Brian Albert and Kevin Albert have not been named as targets of this investigation, it does not mean that they have not been involved in anything nefarious. It just means that if they get whatever they need on Morrissey, members of his office, well, then whoever's involved in this is going to get caught too. That just means that they are not the targets of this investigation yet. That is what that means. Now, they currently, I mean, this is not a lie. They are not targets of this investigation. Of course not. But with everything that we're hearing right now, there's no way that I can hear what either of the Albert's attorneys are saying without thinking the word yet when they say they are not targets of this investigation.
After we see the motion and affidavit, which hasn't been provided to us yet.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Yannetti, did you want to respond or no?
No, I would just move to the next motion if the court were ready.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next motion. Mr. Lally, you didn't want to add anything, did you?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, so this motion concerns Brian Albert, Kenneth Berkowitz, Brian Higgins.
Yes, and Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to start with Brian Higgins with regard to this motion.
Okay. All this is, folks, all that is just a clipped version of what we just listened to. So I'm not going to go through it again. But yeah, I think what we just learned today was extremely telling. Extremely telling. As far as like, I mean, more and more things come up that look more and more suspicious. And, you know, the people who are just so on board with Karen Read being guilty, they're going to sit here and say, okay, well, why aren't indictments being handed out right now? Because it takes time to build a case. With the kind of success rate that the federal investigators have as far as convictions go, as a result of their investigations, which is in the high 90 percentile, you have to understand that these things are probably coming. Based on what we know so far, based on everything that is coming out, because so far we're hearing more and more what could lead to, at least lead to, if not already, lead to exculpatory evidence that could exonerate Karen Read. At the very least, this investigation was botched. At the very least. So what we're looking at is if this goes to trial, which I have no doubt in my mind that it will at this point, other than what the hell? Why is this going to trial? The same reason that we're all asking, why is this going to trial, considering everything that we know? Based on Aunt Bev's decision-making so far, the fact that she joked about the fact that the Commonwealth is basically just pissing on Karen Read's right to a fair trial by just violating any of her orders, and she laughed about it. That tells me that Beverly Cadone absolutely wants this to go to trial. She absolutely wants this to go to trial. So what we're going to see is a big fat waste of taxpayer money. We're going to see exactly why people are crowding in the streets in front of that courthouse saying free Karen Read. It's not just that they think Karen Read is innocent. These people are angry. And no, not in the sense that an angry mob is angry and they're going to riot. Nobody's saying that. I'm saying they see that there's clear injustice taking place. They're looking at it at this point the way the rest of us are looking at it, which is, okay, why is this going to trial? The problem is the fact that this is still going to trial, that it's even being considered that this is still going to trial. That's what those people are gathering about outside of the courthouse. That's what these people are upset about. That is the change that these people demand. Is whatever is allowing this to continue needs to change. So, guys, I am going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody. First off, I want to thank Tom CPU for being out there and giving us that footage and talking to the people out there. I always love that. That's always my favorite part of these days. So thank you, Tom CPU, for that. And everybody who is out there. You guys are amazing. First and foremost, you guys are exactly what is the most important thing out of this whole thing, man. Seriously. I also want to thank Turtle Boy for allowing me on his panel to react to the hearing the way that we were able to do. Thank you so much for having me up there. And thank you, Brian, for the great conversation while I was there. And all you guys for hanging out with me. And man, all of you guys on Twitter, Jesus, man. 2,873 of you guys, besides the 572 watching on YouTube. Man, I never thought I would have that many people watching on Twitter. So thank you guys for taking the time to watch. I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Guys, all the support. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for hitting the like. Those of you who are on Twitter, do me a favor and jump over to YouTube for me and hit the subscribe button and hit the like. I'd really appreciate it. Team Brittany, oh my God, one last one.
I think we got a super chat. Super chat. I think we got a super chat. Super chat. Super chat. Super chat. I think we got a super chat. I think we.
Oh my God. Thank you, Team Brittany, for Clubber's missing parts. Appreciate it. Guys, you are fantastic, man. I love you guys very much. Thank you guys for all the support. You guys are amazing. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.